I'm one of those anonymous types. I
I
don't
understand.
show my face.
Totally understand that. Totally get you, man. I don't. I hate
Although
being
I've
in
been
front of
kicking
the camera.
around the idea of. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, I hate being in front of the camera. I did I think 75 shows before I did anything on camera. I
Uh,
just
okay.
hate it. So I get it. It's not for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've been kicking around the idea of eventually I will get to it, but right now I'm
People
just a small fry, and it's not about me. It's about the stuff I'm finding is really what it's all about anyway, right?
exactly. Exactly. That's why I call myself Beags, because I don't want people to focus on the asshole on the camera. I want to focus on the data,
Right.
the information. I'm unimportant. Just look, I think you feel the same way. It's not we're just people like everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I kind of figure, you know what? Like, real quick, what kicked off the whole thing for me was I started watching these videos maybe about 4 or 5 years ago of people checking out, abandoned ghost towns. And, I found like the Daily Woo and all these guys, and I found them fascinating, right?
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid, after we moved from Quebec out here to Alberta, my family growing up, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't go to Disneyland or Hawaii for our family vacations in the summer. We went camping, stuff like that. But on the
Yeah.
first couple of summers after we moved here, we would just find a random spot on the map and just go for a family drive and check it out. And if it
Well,
was
that
far
sounds
enough away,
cool.
Dad would just make sure there's a campground nearby. So when we were done checking out whatever weirdo Alberta town in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, then we could at least stay somewhere for the night, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of was my thing, right? So then, YouTube eventually started recommending John Levi,
Huh.
um, and Streets of Tartaria.
Okay.
So I started watching Streets of Tartaria before John Levi actually, and
Yeah.
I almost flipped my lid. I almost lost my marbles because I'm like, wait a second. He's showing stuff in these little towns in the middle of nowhere in Utah, and the buildings that he's showing look exactly like the old buildings here where I live in
Yes.
Calgary, Alberta, that
Yes.
they tell me were built in the 1890s or the 1880s or even in the 1870s.
And it's
And
exactly
I'm,
same where I am. It's the same thing
and
everywhere.
I'm like, how can that be?
How can that be? How?
Yeah, yeah. And
It's
the thing
it's
was,
it doesn't
Caleb would
make
go
any
to some,
sense.
yeah, Caleb would go to some little town with 300 people, and there'd be this nothing little town, but they'd have like a couple of huge buildings of brick and limestone and all fancy medallions and cartouches, and sometimes they'd have columns on the front. Always had
This
mud flood windows.
the
Always,
same kind of infrastructure in every place.
yeah, they always had a mason's lodge. And I'm
Well,
thinking, how can this little town of 300 people that was supposedly founded in, let's say, 1873 in the middle of Utah,
yeah.
started off 12 people, now there's 300 people. How can it keep going? And how can it have these huge churches, a couple of huge buildings? And how can it look identical to the huge churches and the huge buildings that are in the older parts of town where I live here in Calgary? It didn't make any sense.
No.
So
And
I
you
thought,
don't
well,
question it growing up. You think it's
that's
just
right.
normal.
That's right. And then the other thing too was um, it was same from town to town wherever he was going. So he could go to, and it wasn't just in a big city like Salt Lake or Provo. He could go to some little town, 300 people, go to some other little town that's 4 or 5 hours in the opposite direction. And maybe it's a bit bigger, maybe it's 1,000 or 3,000 people, but it's got that same shit. And I'm like, what is going on? And
Yep.
because I walk everywhere here, because I live close enough to where I work and I live close enough to everywhere I need to go, I just walk. So I'm seeing these stuff that looks similar on my work. And I'm like, well, wait a second. The narrative here is the railroad didn't come until 1887. There's no
Oh,
red brick, like red clay brick factories in Calgary's history. All the bricks came from Medicine Hat, which is 150 kilometers away. But the
Wow.
train didn't run from Medicine Hat to Calgary. So they had to come by horse and cart. And 150 kilometers back in the 1880s is what? A week?
Wow.
Roads. You got to go over the prairies and through the coulees and over rivers and valleys.
That's
So I
it's
really started
insanity.
looking at all this and going,
It's insanity.
yeah. So I started looking at all this and going, oh, they're telling me that this building that I'm looking at, because I'm standing right in front of it, because it's 4 blocks away from the apartment building I live in. They're telling me it was built in 1902.
What city
Okay,
do
that I
you
can
live
buy.
in?
But this,
What
I
what
live in
city?
Calgary, Alberta now.
Calgary. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I've
So
you were recommended
finding building.
Ozbeast recommended your channel to me, and Streets of Tartaria actually. Caleb is a good friend of mine, so
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, Streets helped me out when I was first. I kind of
oh yeah.
reached out to him and said, I reached out to him and I said, look, man, I'm seeing the same stuff you're seeing. Only I
Okay.
just live in a big city. But if you go to the older parts of town, I'm seeing buildings of red brick that they tell me are built in the 1870s, but there was no red brick factories here and there was no train here in 1870. What the hell's going on? So I said, I'm going to start a channel. What do you suggest? He gave me a little couple of hints and off I went.
Where I'm looking at Calgary right now on Google Earth, what part of town is considered the old part of town?
Um,
If
it
I've got the
is
river on the north side, if I put Google
right.
to where the
Okay.
river's on the north,
So if you head west, just out of the downtown core, basically along the river in the downtown core itself,
okay,
on both sides of the river, the Bow River, because there's two. There's the Elbow River, which runs north and south, and then east and west is the Bow River.
okay, I see what you're saying. Okay,
So if you follow the Bow River west, just slightly out of downtown, there's neighborhoods like where I live in Sunalta. There's Hillhurst, Sunnyside. Um,
what are they?
uh,
2 and 3 story buildings?
yeah, 2, 3, sometimes 4-story buildings.
Okay,
The only major difference between the buildings that Caleb was showing and the buildings that I was seeing, it was all low windows, all red brick, but a
I
lot
tell
of
you what. Let
times.
me share screen, and you can tell me. You can point to where I need to go,
Okay,
and
okay.
that because I'd like to see. Let me know when you see my Google.
Yeah, I see it there.
Okay,
So
now which way do I go?
if you zoom in a little bit and move west a little bit, you'll see just past where it says Shaw Millennium Park in green there. Go a little west of that. It says West Village, right? South of West Village is Sunalta. Okay, Sunalta is where I live.
Okay, Sonalta right there. Okay, and then
Yeah.
where is the area of the business buildings?
Oh, okay. If you go, avenues run east to west and streets run north to south, so it makes it easy.
Okay.
So your cursor's on 11th. If you go to 10th Avenue, so 1 block north,
Okay.
right now head back east of just as you're getting into downtown. Keep going. You're going to get into the warehouse district pretty soon. And I did a walking tour of this area. Little bit further east. Okay, yeah. Now you're starting to see there's some of those buildings there. Red brick. Oh, gone a little far east now. They've see those high rises there. They started tearing down the old buildings.
Right. Yes, they are absolutely tearing things down. So something like in this area,
Uh,
that
yeah.
one
Well,
looks interesting right there.
yeah. That's a newer building.
Is it?
But if you go
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
if you go back 1 block to the left,
That way.
so you're on 11th Avenue, okay? So now if you turn right, okay, now look at this one right there, the Banbury Lane That's one that I took footage of.
Was there a section?
That's an old warehouse there too that they painted murals all over it.
Did they have a section where they considered the downtown at the time, or have they destroyed it?
No, that's on Stephen Avenue, right downtown. So if you go back up a little bit, Stephen Avenue is 8th Avenue Southwest. So you basically just have to go 2 blocks south of where you are. Yeah,
8th Avenue.
Yeah, 8th Avenue.
Okay. Down this area here.
Yeah. Keep going.
Okay, this is I guess the downtown core.
Yeah, okay, where it says Core Shopping Center.
That looks interesting right there, doesn't it?
Yeah, right in there. That's where you want to be.
Okay, so this was considered the wow, this is nice.
Now, Calgary had a nickname after the Great Calgary Fire in 1886. They said, okay, we're not building any more wooden buildings. It's all going to be sandstone or brick or fieldstone.
Huh.
So Calgary became known as Sandstone City because of all the sandstone buildings. But there's just as many red brick buildings. Now, I found sandstone quarries here. In fact, there was a dozen at the height of Calgary's first boom after the railroad came in. So there are sandstone quarries here. In fact, 2 are still used today, but no brick factories, no brickyard, no nothing.
Well, they might be talking about the facade. If you get up underneath the lady's skirt here, that might be a brick building. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking too. These are Victorian tart-ups.
Yeah, I would, I would just, if you want a little a tip, I mean, just use Caleb's the things that Caleb has learned. Just go and knock on the door and say, "Hey, I'm interested in the architecture, and I'm just wondering what you could tell me about it." And ask simple questions. And do you know what the building's made of? And does it have a basement? And but don't start with the basement because it sounds a little weird.
Yeah, you got a basement in here.
Yeah. Well,
get the hell out of here, weirdo.
Caleb used to walk. I had to get on him about this. He used to walk into the stores and say, "Hey, how you doing? I was wondering, do you have a basement?" They'd say, yeah," and he'd go, "Well, can I see it?"
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm like, come on now, you got to warm up the bun before you stick it in the oven. You know what I mean? Oh man,
you got to preheat it a bit first.
Yeah. I mean, that's just not gonna work, Caleb. So he's slowed his roll on that. And he does a lot better now.
Well, I've been watching him since the beginning, really, because I went back after his channel was recommended, and I watched a couple of videos. I went back and binge watched all the way from his first video.
Oh yeah.
Now, this area I have not shot yet, but I'm planning on walking down Stephen Avenue and just doing like roughly about an hour is what my walkabouts are for when I do the long format videos.
Oh yeah, you can't do a whole lot.
So I'm definitely going to do this stretch Stephen Avenue. It's about 10 city blocks really from asshole to breakfast time, and it's fascinating.
Oh, you've got good stuff there, no doubt.
And it ends right at the old city hall.
Matter of fact, one night during my live show, Oz said, "Let's go look at Calgary," and we went, and I dropped in the wrong place, and we didn't find this. I don't think we did, because I don't remember this.
Yeah, see, now this was the bustling. This used to be the main street. It since was redesignated 8th Avenue and since redesignated Stephen Avenue. This strip with all the historical stuff is called Stephen Avenue. Yeah. And there's shops, restaurants, and there's a big mall attached, and the usual tourist trappings. And if you keep following that eastward, it goes to the rodeo grounds where we have our Calgary Stampede every year, and that's the world's biggest rodeo.
Oh, okay.
So we got cowboys coming from Wyoming, Oklahoma, Texas, Montana, you name it, New Zealand, Australia, competing for the world's biggest.
That's really interesting because I wouldn't even expect I thought that was something they did here. The rednecks did here. I wouldn't even expect that in Calgary.
Well, let me tell you
Pretty
something,
cool.
my friend. The narrative that you have down there about the Wild West and all that,
Oh, it's
it's the
horseshit.
exact same narrative up here for us.
Really?
Cowboys, Indians, Wild West, uh, the whole shoot match is exactly the same, and they still hammer that narrative into our heads every year with this annual Calgary Stampede, which has been going for over 100 years strong now.
I keep getting put on the sidewalks. There.
Oh yeah.
That's why I keep coming in and out. For some reason, it keeps throwing me on the sidewalk, and I can't get to where I need to look. So bear with me. I'm trying to get in there to see what's here. This helps me get to. Was I here before?
Yeah, that's Stephen Avenue. That's the Bay, Hudson's Bay Company. Supposedly, right now, the oldest continually operated company, the Hudson's Bay Trading Company.
Those columns are nice. Jeez.
Yeah, that's marble and all that, which is unusual for us because everything's pretty much sandstone, as you can see. And that's the big difference I was noticing between the buildings Caleb was showing on streets and what I was seeing was, yes, red brick, but he's seeing red brick and limestone, whereas I'm seeing red brick and sandstone, not as much limestone.
Right. Yeah. I think the facades were that they're more location specific as to what stone they used on the facade.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is not. I'd bet dollars to donuts that every single one of these buildings is brick underneath.
Yeah, I think so too. And the guy that turned me on to that was what's his name? Ebony. What the bloody hell's his name? I want Dave Ebony. Because he's over in England, right? And so it's real easy for him to go to.
Sounds familiar.
He goes to France, he goes to Amsterdam, he goes all over England, he can go to Ireland, Scotland. So he's shooting like buildings that we're told are built in the 1700s, but then he's going around to the back where the stone's falling off and it's red brick underneath.
Yep. Definitely.
And the Antiquitech that he's finding up there is mind-blowing.
Well, there is a theory that
copper wire coming out of the ether antennas and everything. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
In fact, I found a church
here.
The
theory is that there was two groups that did this. That you had the quote unquote the Tartarian group.
Right.
That did the buildings where they built with brick, and then you had the Phoenicians that came in and did all the facades.
Yeah, all the fancy, elaborate stuff.
Yeah. Now I can't. Proving it is a whole different thing. But see, where this comes from is the symbology that they use on the facading is extremely Phoenician.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's all the little details stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's what Dave Ebony calls. And Dave Ebony calls a lot of that Victorian tart up. He said, like, the Victorians are being credited for building these buildings in the 1800s, but really all they did was they just put all the fancy shit on them. But I
don't even know if they did that. I think it happened before. I think the Victorians is the cover story.
Well, what he's suggesting is the Victorians are copying what the Phoenicians did, but to a lesser extent because the skill wasn't quite there. So he's saying that some of these buildings were Phoenician embellished, and then there was a more recent reset. And then the Victorians tried to come in and fix again and sort of emulate what the Phoenicians did, and it's to a lesser degree.
And that might be where the
and that's where the Masons come in and the Oddfellows and stuff.
Could be.
Because we have the Masons and Oddfellows up here, and also the Shriners and the Elks Club and all that too, right?
Oh yeah. There's a nice one right there.
Yeah, I shot that one too. It's called, I think I called it "The Whole Block Was Flooded" or something like that.
Wow.
That's what we see in England a lot, with those little bridges of concrete over to go to the door.
Well, what about the houses? Where is there a mansion section in this city?
Yeah, there's a couple, and they're close to where I am. So if you kind of go back to Sun Alta, which is west of downtown.
Okay.
Yeah, Sun Alta. Now, if you keep moving down a bit, it says Beltline. Sorry, the other way. Moving west or south, I'm sorry. Move south, it says Beltline. Yeah, a little further, you should be able to start to see, maybe a little further southwest, you'll see Mount Royal.
Okay. Let's see.
Keep going south, you're on a kind of a
Royal.
diagonal.
Like
Okay,
that.
you're in Bank so go east from Bank. So to the right. Yeah, keep going. Okay, so in there, that's Mount Royal.
And
Now,
these are
some of them are newer, some of them are older. It's peppered.
okay.
And this used to be called American Hill in the Victorian era in Calgary. And then just prior to World War One, because as you know, the 1900s are known as Canada's century for some reason. And then it was changed to Mount Royal because all the highfalutin folks that owned all the businesses on 17th Avenue, which is just north of that area, this is where they lived. The bankers, the merchants, the landowners,
Right.
so forth.
It seems there's always a mansion, area is
Yeah,
another,
yeah.
Key aspect to it.
Yeah, so we have Mount Royal and to some extent Scarborough, which is where I am. It's just a little bit beyond Sun Alta.
It really is a mix.
And even where I live, right in my neighborhood of Sun Alta, there's some huge brick homes that are 2 floors, 3 floors. The problem is with Calgary is it's a boom town. So they just as soon knock down an old building and put up a skyscraper as they would try to keep it and repurpose it.
Oh yeah. It's incredible what they've knocked down. I'm finding things that absolutely dumbfounding that they've knocked down. Just stupefying. Just why would you knock that? Why would you build it, number one, and then you knocked it down? I mean, it's like
Yeah.
it's a joke.
Well, in the narrative for Calgary, we had 3 booms in the early period, right? The first boom was when the Hudson's Bay Company sold all the land basically west of Manitoba, which is Winnipeg, Manitoba is basically geographically right in the middle of Canada, east to west, right? So the narrative is that there was really nothing west of Manitoba except for wild Indians and fur trappers that worked for Hudson's Bay Company. So the federal government in 1867, when we became the Dominion of Canada and we officially became a country, the Hudson's Bay Company sold a bunch of land west of Manitoba to the federal government, and then they opened up the west and started parceling off and selling off all the land.
Okay.
But the railroad hadn't come to Alberta until, I think, 1882, and that was only to our capital city, Edmonton, which is 3-hour drive north of where I am, and didn't come to Calgary till 1887. But Calgary had a boom with a cattle boom when they parceled off this land. Right. Then again, when the railroad came in, which was about 10 years later. And then again in the early 1920s through to the early 1930s when they discovered oil, you see. Oil in them there hills.
Oh, man.
And basically, the narrative after discovering oil is almost identical to the narrative in San Francisco with the discovery of gold. Because they didn't discover oil in what was known as Calgary, the town of Calgary, and later the city of Calgary. No, it's like 50 miles away. In a place called Turner Valley. But Turner Valley never boomed. But Calgary sure as hell did. So I think Calgary was already here.
Well, and I don't know if you know of how America was divvied up, but the way that they did it here was they did what was called land grants from the King of England. Have you heard about? Did y'all have the same thing, or was it done
Yeah,
differently?
they had land grants and land lotteries where it's a mad dash, plant your flag in to stake your claim for your land, just like they did in Oklahoma and just like they did in
Yeah, but
far
what I'm
away.
finding is the land grabs was more just the extra land that they were
Yeah,
throwing
shittier
away.
land. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the land grants that I'm finding, that's the ones that actually had the cities on them and that they were giving away.
Yes. Yeah. They already had grid patterned plots and lots with numbers on them that you can buy these lots here for such and such a price and all that. Yeah. Yeah. Same thing up here. Yes, sir. Same thing.
See, now here the way they did it was if you this is kind of a quick nuts and bolts of it, but you would say I'm going to go to from England. I'm going to pay for my passage and my family's passage over and my slaves' passage over to America, and I'm going to set up shop. The Lord Proprietor would
Uh,
give you a land grant that was given by the king to the Lord Proprietor to divvy up, and then you were
yes.
given so many acres per um, person, the head of household, and then you were given so many hundreds of acres per person and so many hundreds of acres per slave. And they just gave it to you.
Okay. They did a little differently up here. What they did was they did have the land title holders, and then they could parcel out the land.
Huh?
And then there was a couple of options. You could sublease the land from them, basically fancy way of saying sharecropping,
Yeah.
or he could divvy up a portion of his land, and I think I shot footage of that place too. I
Really?
think, yeah.
Yeah, it
Well,
looks real interesting.
I've been at it for quite a while here on my channel already, over a year
Yeah.
now. But anyway, but what they would do then is they could say, okay, I'll tell you what, if you want this piece of land here, Mr. Immigrant from England or Ireland or whatever, or Germany, out here in Alberta, the narrative is lots of Germans, lots of Ukrainians, and Mennonites and Hutterites and all them. But regardless, what you could do is they basically would give you the land, but then you had to work for them for 3 years, 4 years, whatever they determined the value of the land. And once you were done working the land for him, then you now owned your little section of land.
See, that sounds a lot like what they called here the freedmen. What you would the indentured servitude. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of the slaves that we call slaves were not slaves; they were indentured servants. And what they
Yeah, they
would
were
do
in
is
debt
they would
somehow.
have a contract that they
Yeah.
would work for so many years, and once they were done with their contract, then they were given parcels of land and certain amount of money, and they were allowed to be a freedman
Yeah,
at
yeah,
that
yeah,
time. And the
yeah,
difference between a freedman and a slave is very different.
yeah, yeah. Now, the
Uh,
thing is here is that in Canada, but as far as I understand it from the official narrative, we didn't have slavery here in Canada.
I don't, yeah, I don't think you did, but I mean, I
By
don't
the
know, but I don't think you
by
did.
the by the time slavery was abolished through the hard work of the Americans and the British, might I add, um, can't by the time that was abolished and done with, it was after that that Canada officially became a country. But even prior to that, we didn't have official slavery. We did have indentured servitude. Yes, we did. We had debtor slaves, but we didn't have the sort of what you would consider the formal, where one human being owns another, and that human that's owned is not considered a human.
Right. I
Now
think
you're in
it's
Chinatown. That's
possible
another.
that the people that were actual slaves, um, I'm wondering if they were that they didn't start off as slaves, but they started off as prisoners of war.
Yeah, that could be too.
So that's
A lot of
interesting.
times you could earn your freedom as a prisoner of war by working it off too, right? Yeah, you're in Chinatown now, but this is actually the third version of Calgary's Chinatown. This originally was Germantown.
Ah, yeah. It doesn't look. It almost looks like they built on top of something.
Yeah, this is real close to the river. You can see the river there in the distance there, just beyond that little gazebo looking thing. So this actually did flood in 2014.
Do you specifically focus on this city, or do you venture out to other cities, or what's your focus
My focus is mainly boots on the ground in Calgary, and
in
more
Calgary?
specifically, just in the really old parts of town, or by the narrative we're told are the older parts of town, like Chinatown, like where I live, like that Stephen Avenue you looked at.
Where
Um,
is the first schools at? I haven't seen a school yet.
oh, if you go to Okay, if you go to that Central Memorial Park that's highlighted in green, and you zoom down on that, first of all, you'll see some crazy geomancy there. You'll see the Carnegie Library, which is called Memorial Park Library. And just there's some tennis courts just a little east of that Carnegie Library, which I shot last summer. Do you see those
Okay.
tennis courts there? Now
Yep.
there's a little school there. That's a pretty old school. The Halton Park and that school.
Do you have the lack of better words, the massive brick schools with the white coins and the kind of the white outlined windows?
Yes. Yeah.
Where are those at? Because those I think are definitely old world. Because and I find those all over the freaking country. It's everywhere.
In your Google Maps search, if you just type in Sunalta, Sunalta school. There you go. First one, yeah, right there, Calgary Board of Education. Now I shot footage of that earlier this year, but that's built on a huge hill. That's one of the earliest schools in this neighborhood. And this is that's a crazy looking school. Now
Yeah.
again, it's sandstone, not brick, but there are brick schools too.
I if you look under there, I bet you it's brick though.
Probably.
I bet you it is. I mean, that's how they do that. It's
In fact, type in your search window, type in Western Canada High School,
okay.
and that'll take you to a brick and sandstone school. You see, it's on a huge hill. It's got low windows, it's got Mudflood windows, it's got tons of tech on it. It's got a bell
Yeah,
tower.
they're not letting me get. Maybe I can see it from here. I'm trying to get a good vantage point though. Sometimes shoot.
Yeah, you
Sometimes you
can't.
can't
It's
get
tough.
close enough to it on the Google. Yeah, they're not letting me get too close to it. Okay, what was the other one? West.
Western Canada High School. There it is.
Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, now yeah. Oh yeah. This is what I was asking about. This style. I don't know what you call this style, but I can show you this style all over North America and even Canada. I've even found these. Do you remember the movie A Christmas Story?
Yeah, from a long time ago, but yep.
Okay. Now, I did a video a long time ago. It's not on YouTube anymore. They YouTube blocked it. And I don't even know if I have it. I don't know if I have it on the internet anywhere or not, but I did a video on it started off about I was showing how a Christmas story. I was doing a Christmas show, a Christmas
Okay.
video, right? And it
Yep.
started off as kind of a simple video where I was going to show the Mudflood buildings that were used in the movie A Christmas Story. Well, that turned
Okay.
into doing all of Cleveland, Ohio, which turned into a humongous. It was like a 2.5 hour video. It was ridiculous. And so, in the process of that, I found out that the school that they shot the movie It was actually filmed in Canada, and it was a building just like this.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, and
And
the narrative on this building is that the far western wing, so the opposite of that structure, but its exact twin. Yeah, that one right there.
yep.
That's the initial original building. And it was a boys only American college type high school. So it was not co-ed. It was
So
like
this one
a
right here
private,
was the original.
yeah, it was like a private school for boys only, much like
Okay.
the American college style high schools, right? Then they built the girls version, which is its twin. And then in the 20s, they built that big, massive portion to join the two. That's the official narrative.
Wow.
There's a huge, crazy smokestack on the back of that school, too, by the way, that has no business on the back of a school.
Yeah, I've
There it is. Yeah.
kind of recently kind of figured out what those are. Those are the old steam. They're for the steam systems. That's what that is. That was for the steam power plant for the. That's what that is.
Now, see that adjacent building to that's all considered part of the same high school. But originally, that building wasn't part of the high school. It was just an adjacent building.
Right,
And then
and
later
that was
on,
another thing. Yeah,
was
the
added
steam
into
plants
part of it.
were separate from the buildings. I
Yeah.
don't know why. Maybe for safety, but the steam plants were always separate from the main building, and they always had a square building, usually larger than this, and then a smokestack. There might be another building here. Um, Usually it had a building kind of like, this size, but they might have taken that down, and this might be, but this is very normal. I'm finding this more and more. And I'm starting to think that the smokestacks that we're finding, you might have heard me say over and over again that smokestacks aren't smokestacks. I think what they are is for the old steam systems, because I think the steam systems are old world.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny, the parking lot where that smokestack is, it's a completely raised parking lot. And if you look, you can see that it's big rectangular concrete slabs that have been laid down. So there's a portion of that rear parking lot that's there's something underneath it. Just that
What
little
now?
section
You say that
right in
this.
there.
You're saying that the original building was this one right here, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
And they're saying that these two were built later?
yeah. The one on the far right was built a couple of years later, and then the one in the middle was added to join the two after World War One.
Okay, so before 1943, correct?
Yes,
Okay, I would be willing to bet, and this is just an opinion, I would be willing to bet that all of that is horse shit and this whole thing was here.
I think so too. Because look how symmetrical it is, and look how everything matches up perfectly.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense. The brick looks the same, the ornamentation's the same, the layout, it looks right. This obviously is new. That's
Yes.
No doubt, no question. But I think it looks the same to me. I think that complete building was there. I think they came up with a narrative to explain that they needed more time to build the building, and that's what they did. They just came up with a story, and yeah, I think yeah.
And the thing is that by the narrative too, the official Calgary narrative is that this very avenue that school is on, 17th Avenue Southwest, at what time that was the boundary for the city limits, actually the town limits, even before it was a city. So everything beyond, according to the narrative, everything beyond 17th Avenue Southwest, so everything south of 17th Avenue, was all farmland, cattle grazing land, pastures, cattle pastures.
Do they have a I don't know if they did the same things where you're at. Do they have the insane asylums there?
We don't. I've looked for insane asylums in Calgary, and I haven't found any old world buildings that they designated as insane asylums in the 1800s.
Have you
I found
found one that's labeled as a
hospitals.
tuberculosis hospital?
No, nothing like that. I found a couple of old hospitals where they had a wing of the hospital that was supposed to be, for the mentally insane. But other than that, no separate buildings. So that hospital was torn down. It's not there anymore.
Ah, okay. See, now that might be. What they did was they originally used them as originally they called them insane asylums, and then once they got through doing that narrative, then they came out with the tuberculosis hospital designation.
Yeah.
And then they decided, oh well, these buildings ain't worth a damn. Let's get rid of them.
Yeah.
And so then some of them remained, and some of them didn't. And a lot of times you'll have a prison also. Do you have a prison?
No, we don't have a prison in the city anymore. No. Again, that was, I think, in the 50s that was knocked down. We have holding cells and and all that, but we don't have a prison in the city anymore.
But you did have a prison.
There was at one point a prison sort of north of where you are now in the downtown core. It was kind of right around that Princess Island Park area. I'm not sure exactly where it was.
Where okay. Where's the your water treatment plant?
That is, well, we have the Glenmore Reservoir, which if you follow the Bow River west.
Okay.
Keep following it past past Boness Park. Getting close. A little further. Oh, no, wait. Sorry, no, sorry, past it. Sorry.
Is it like a dam?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, it's a dam and a reservoir. There's the.
Okay, well, what about the what I'm looking for is the they would have had a water treatment plant, and it would have been a red brick building.
Oh, well, there's an old water pump house just 2 blocks from my place.
No, not the pump house. That would have been different. They would have had a
Yeah, you know what? I don't know where the old water treatment plant was. I would assume it would be near the Glenmore Reservoir.
I'll show you. Let me show you the one that I'm looking into, and that way you'll know what to look for. Let's see. Now you're not gonna find this. It probably is not in use anymore. Like the one I'm gonna show you now was discontinued in the 80s.
Okay.
But it's out. Okay, you see downtown Raleigh is right here. And then the water treatment is, let's see, right there. It's this area right here.
Okay.
And they had these reservoirs here for the collection of the water, and then the treatment plant is here.
Ah, yeah, I see. Okay, yeah.
And so what that is an old world treatment plant, and it's massive.
Yeah, that's a huge bugger.
And so, and another thing is it's absolutely exquisite inside. That the mechanisms are just beautiful. They're just absolutely decadent in how it's presented. You walk in here and it's like a cathedral inside. How clean and the gears and mechanisms and the dials and the pressure gauges is it's
Yeah.
oh, it's amazing. It's like, are you shitting me? You know?
Yeah. Now I don't see that. I don't. The thing is that, see, I was born in Montreal, lived in Montreal until I was 10 years old. Then we moved to Calgary. And I had never heard of Calgary when I was a kid. I barely heard of Alberta, just what I knew from on the map in school, kind of
Yeah.
thing. So then we moved out here, and I was inundated with the whole narrative of the Cowboys, and it was the Wild West, and they got this here Calgary Stampede every year, and people dress up in their Western garb for that whole 10 days of the Stampede. And so by the time I got interested in the stuff that we're talking about now, which was really only a couple of years ago when I really started doing a deeper dive into it, again, I was just kind of noticing stuff in my immediate area. And I think by the time a lot of this kind of came to my awareness, a lot of these old buildings are now completely gone, and I never knew where they were to start with. You know what I mean?
Right. It is very difficult to retrace it. What where do you have a train station?
Yeah, the oldest train station is, let's see, where are you there? If you go, okay, if you go, what's the easiest way to find it? Type in your Google Maps, type in Rouleauville, Rouleau. There it is, Rouleauville Square, 17th Avenue Southwest.
Okay.
Now, where it
Ready?
says St. Mary's Cathedral,
Right.
next to that, there's sort of a blue highlight there. A blue bubble. Yeah, that is the oldest remaining
Yeah, it looks like a train
CP
station.
rail station.
Okay, now there will have been possibly in your location what's called a roundhouse.
Well, I'm looking for the roundhouse, and I think I found where it used to be, but it's gone.
Right, a lot of them are gone, but a lot of times they will leave the round. Now, here's the reason I asked for the train station. The train would have had the roundhouse near the train station. Now, here this is what's standing out to me. You see this sucker right here?
Yeah.
I would research that location right there.
Well,
Because
I know where the CP, the Canadian Pacific Roundhouse was, which is in Inglewood. And I used to live real close to it, and that's the other thing that I do on
well,
my channel.
they would have had they might sometimes they had two of them.
Oh,
Like
sure.
they would
Well, we
have
had
like
two railroads.
there would be one that would be kind of for the well, it depends on the railroad, but sometimes they would have one for each railroad for the main railroads, and then other times they would have kind of one that was for like the consumer the passenger trains and another for the freight trains.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And we have two railways up here in Canada since the 1860s. Well, earlier than that, but out west here is
I
CP
think the
Rail.
railroads were already here.
Yeah,
I think all that was here.
me too. But we had CP Rail and CN Rail, so Canadian Pacific and Canadian National. And where this Canadian Pacific Roundhouse was is in Inglewood, which is a little bit south of where you are right now, actually.
Okay, Inglewood.
Let's see. I don't think it's going to say Inglewood. It's going to be known as... okay, what you've got to do is go a little bit north of where you are. Okay, where it's yeah, a little further, and now go east.
Okay.
Okay, now where it says Crossroads Market in blue there.
Okay.
Just a little bit north of that, you'll see there's a bunch of railway, south of that. my
Right,
mistake.
right there.
You
There it
see
is.
a whole bunch of
Oh
railway
yeah,
tracks. Now the
that's
old
it.
roundhouse was in there, but it's gone.
Yep, that's it. It was. Let's see if we can find it. Let's see. The trains came in. A lot of times you can see the footprint of it.
Yeah, looking for the sort of the ghost of it. Yeah.
It might have been in here.
It's right in where that whole
I bet
mess
you it
of
was right
track is.
there. I I bet right there or somewhere. That's where I think it would be right there.
That's where I think it was right in the perimeter of that whole mess of track where it kind of bulges out a little bit there.
Yep.
So I
They would
plan on
had
going in
two
there and
buildings.
I plan on
They
going
had
in there and
a
poking around.
roundhouse, which was the building, the round building where they would service the units and give them their daily clean out, and then they would have I forget the name of the second building, but they would have a second building where they would take a train that needed an overhaul, and they could literally take a train apart.
Yeah,
And
they had the
like
barns and the roundhouse.
yeah, the barn, yeah,
Yeah,
and
because that's the other thing I do a lot of my channels. I show a lot of old footage of old steam locomotives because that's my thing. I love those old things.
oh yeah,
So I find a lot of old footage from the 1800s, early 1900s of these old trains, and I throw those up on the channel too, just because it's my passion. I love old trains.
I have a lot of those pictures of the trains. Tons. I didn't used to show them because it wasn't Mudflood stuff. But I've started showing them more and more because people seem to like them. But I don't show too many. I can't show everything. I have tons and tons of the ship pictures. I just don't. I just don't show.
Yeah.
That's it. That's definitely part of it.
Beags, am I able to share screen on here too?
Yeah. Let me stop my share. Let me figure out how to stop my share. Okay. Wait. Confirm stop sharing. Okay. Now you should be able to share screen.
Can you see
It's
anything
doing
coming up?
something. I'm seeing it did something, but it didn't do. Okay. Uh I see it says 1x. Oh, that's on my screen. I don't know what you're sharing. It's a blank screen.
That's weird. Okay, I'll stop sharing that. Let me try. I just had a couple of neat pictures that I just don't get a chance to show often. It was the old Center Street Bridge. I had a bunch of huge lion statues on it that they took away a few years ago. But that bridge was built in the 19 teens, which was pretty neat. But I want to show you something that I found about a month ago when I was looking for star forts, believe it or not, in Alberta.
Right.
And it came up with something that was
Do y'all have star forts?
there are star forts in Canada. I haven't found any in Alberta yet, but there's some in Manitoba,
Which coast is that on? I'm not.
that's right in the middle of the country. That's
Oh, okay.
right. It's in between. It's right west of Ontario.
I had somebody ask a question a couple weeks back where they were saying, "Do you know of any star forts on the west coast?" And I said, "You know what? No, I don't." And I still have not found any on the west coast, which I thought was weird. Although we found them, in the middle of America, but not on the west coast, not that I know of. I mean, San Francisco has the one underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. I guess that would be one. So I guess I don't know what they're talking about.
So can you see what I'm sharing here, or no?
No, it's not showing it. Are you actually looking at that screen?
No, it's not even popping up when I'm trying to share it. Yeah, it's weird. Well, we're having all kinds of good luck, aren't we?
You got to look. You got to look. You actually have to look at the screen you want to look at. You can't have up. You got to be looking at the whatever the picture is. Go and look at that and stay on that. You know what I'm saying? You can't
Okay, I got you. I got
yeah, you
you.
can't go back to zoom. It'll stop or Skype. There
So,
it is. I see it
so
now.
you see that?
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
just you need to widen it though. It's small. Or was it small when I was showing it?
uh, uh,
It's like it
yeah,
seems like it's I'm trying
because I've got it on full screen setting here.
trying to figure out how to trying to figure out how to
Yeah, because I've got my window expanded all the way. But
how to set. Oh, here's a view. Okay. Nope, that didn't do it. Grid view. Nope.
but I was looking sort of here in sort of north central Alberta, kind of in the middle of nowhere, because I was seeing all these goofy geographic anomalies, right?
Okay.
And then I was kind of looking around in some of these little, tiny little areas that, like, why did that develop there? So I was kind of looking around in these areas for star forts and stuff, right? Because I figured, maybe that's where I would find them. But then I came across something that was completely different. Have you ever seen anything? This is a creek bed. Have you ever seen a creek change its mind this many times in this short of a distance?
Yeah,
This
that's
is a
weird.
creek. Look at that. There's where the creek goes now. But
Wow.
what are all these, like, sure, I understand water takes the path of least resistance. Sometimes on a tight curve here, the water slows down and sedimentation will build up and then it might divert itself. But I mean, come on, this many times over this whole area.
Yeah, that's strange. That's
I've
definitely
never
weird.
seen that anywhere before. And then here now it goes back to sort of single, but then when you go up a little further, it starts kind of messing around again. And I was just wondering if you've ever seen anything like that before.
No, I've not seen that.
I think it was
That is
another spot kind of up in here where it seems to have changed its mind a few times throughout here.
they're not old canals, are they? I mean, because the canals were here
Oh,
too.
yeah, no, those aren't canals, but Alberta has a buttload of canals too that are way too massive to have an undertaking for, again, the narrative of what they say.
Oh yeah, we've got these canals here that's like, oh yeah, we dug them, but then there's like no evidence that we dug them at all.
Yeah, like
What are you
these cattle
talking about?
ranchers and farmers supposedly built these huge canal systems that, just go like just go everywhere. They make sure that they go to each little plot, to each little section of land. That's not a creek here. That's all the canal. And it just keeps, and it branches off and it keeps going and then it spills into it feeds these little ponds in and around here. And then it just keeps going. Like this is the canal here. And I try to zoom in close, but then of course you lose the detail. But that's not a country road. That's the canal. And it just keeps going and going. And Alberta's the size of Texas, by the way, just so you know. We're almost the same square million mileage as Texas. Like you can see, Alberta's huge.
Yeah.
And those canals go from Calgary all through all these little farming towns, all these little communities. And everywhere we see a little tiny little lake or pond, those canals are feeding all of those. So supposedly
And they
early
tell you it was ice.
pioneers that had to build sod huts to live in because there's no trees here. There's bald ass prairie now. Nothing but coulees and sagebrush and wild Indians and buffalo. No trees. So they couldn't build log cabins. They had to build their sod houses. But then they could build this massive canal system. And here's some more crazy squiggly. Oh, this one didn't really look like it changed its mind though. But yeah, the canal thing was another one that I'm like, I can't get too deep into that because then I'll just go down another crazy rabbit hole.
It's hard to, here in America we have so many trees that it's hard to see stuff like that.
Yeah.
That is whack. I don't know.
But there's some, there's that squiggly thing. When I saw that, I'm like, what is this? I got to put a pin in that.
Where is that? Can you show me that again? Like the area that it's at.
Yeah, it's near this Hay Lake.
That's north of Alberta.
That's northern Alberta. Almost. This is what they call. I think this.
Okay,
is
so the northwest quadrant of Alberta.
Yeah, northwest quadrant, right past this big, all-seeing eye, the eye of Alberta. They don't call it that. I just called it that just now. I just coined it. It's mine. That's it.
It's weird looking, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. But when you zoom into it, I think it's like what we call muskeg, like tundra. Like it's water with like mossy land floating on it.
What did they tell you? The glaciers went across and scraped all this shit up? Is that the
idea? Yeah, the narrative is the glaciers came all the way down. Sort of came all the way down. Here's the Canadian Rockies, right?
Yeah.
That's what separates Alberta from British Columbia. So we had they tell us we had one glacier here, the other one here, and it came all the way down to the Great Lakes region. So all this was supposedly under a mile of ice.
I've just never had, that's always been a strange concept to me. I've never really followed that idea. I don't know.
Well, and that's because here's Winnipeg, and the Star Fort they found in Winnipeg is, I'm not sure exactly where it is. I forgot to mark it, but it's somewhere in sort of north central Winnipeg. So by their narrative, if the glacier came all the way down here, it would have completely obliterated that Star Fort. But no, the Star Fort is still there. So it's really weird. It's crazy stuff.
There's something to be said that we can find the same things, the same styles construction, the same symbols, the same anomalies all around the world, and especially in North America, South America, and Australia.
Yeah, it's almost like there were schools. There was like the European schools where the buildings were, by the narrative, older, and they, by our investigations, look a little bit more ornate and a little larger. Then you come to the so-called New World, and the style is the same, but it's on a slightly smaller scale. And then we're told, well, it's because we copied the Old World style, so it's newer and smaller.
Yeah,
I don't buy it.
I think it's weird when you start looking into the history. If you go back and look at the original buildings that were there, that's when it really gets crazy, because it actually the further back you go and the more buildings you re-add to the story, the more you realize it actually did look more like Europe than we think.
Yeah, and that's what I'm finding with some of these buildings. And some of them look very similar, if not identical, to the European cathedrals and so on. And yeah, some of them are smaller, but not all of them are. I mean, I'm finding 5-story red brick buildings here that they're telling me were built in 1880s. And I'm like, wait a second. They didn't make red brick in Calgary.
I think there's some evidence or the possibility that there was a major, lack of better words, bombing campaign here. That there was some major, maybe war where they destructed a lot of the stuff prior to anybody coming, because you know, you've got the Carolina Bays, and then I forget who did what channel did. I think it might have been Conspiracy RS, where he was talking about the tracing of the Carolina Bays, and there was they determined that there was what looks like bombing runs that came uh, out of the Canadian region above Chicago.
Okay, yeah.
And I always thought that was really fascinating. That I don't know, it's like something happened that I don't know what I'm trying to say. I don't think that the same thing um happened in here that happened in Europe. I think there was two different, maybe not different things, but it happened at two different times, or there was, because there's so much more history in Europe, and that's undeniable. It's there.
Yeah.
It's so.
Well, even if you just look at populations, it's more heavily populated. So one would just logically assume that if people are going to migrate anywhere, they're going to migrate, generally speaking, out of crowded areas into newer areas where they can sort of try to thrive in those newer areas.
Right.
But, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, can you see what I'm sharing now, the Louisiana Purchase?
No.
Oh.
Retrace your steps on how you did that before, because that worked.
Okay, let me just try closing all this stuff down.
It may not like your photo program, so you might try a different photo program. Sometimes things aren't compatible with each other, but it like that. You were on Google right then, right? Before?
Yeah, earlier I was on the Google, yeah. Let's see if it'll work here. Yeah, this should be it, I think.
Okay, I see it.
All right. Now, remember when we were talking in email back and forth about the Louisiana Purchase?
Yeah.
So that was 1803, right?
Okay.
And what I noticed this a while back too, is that part of the land that they designated that belonged to France that was sold to the U.S. creeps up here into my neck of the woods.
Yeah, that line is awful high. Yeah.
Yeah, and can you see this next one?
Okay.
You see this one? So
Yep.
here, see this dotted line here? That's the border. So
Okay.
this is our modern border. This is the border that was established once, the U.S. and the Canada were established. Okay, we're friendly neighbors. Hi, how are you? Howdy,
Right.
neighbor. Boom. So, like, Calgary is right basically where this U is for Hudson's Bay Company, which is they owned all this land. You see, it didn't belong to Canada yet. But Calgary is like right in here. So,
yeah.
at one time, the Louisiana territories came up into my neck of the woods. So that's another reason why I'm not shocked at all of the whole wild Indians, no man's land, wild frontier narrative, because the narrative that you guys were getting down here from the Carolinas, where you are, in Kentucky and so on, was that, all in here, that's all them wild Indians.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And getting that same narrative up here. And then, now if you go to older source maps, it even says parts unknown in where sort of the Louisiana territory is.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that in that first map, it shows you Lewis and Clark. So Lewis and Clark went through right after the Louisiana Purchase. Louisiana Purchase 1803. 1804, boom, Lewis and Clark are right in there.
Right.
So it couldn't have been parts unknown for very long. They've already got Crow here, Native Indigenous peoples, right? The Shoshone, the Cheyenne, the Sioux, the Dakota. Up here, it's Blackfeet, which is a misnomer. It's actually Blackfoot. They're the Blackfoot Indian. We have Stony and Pagan up here. We have Sioux, the Crow, Blood Indian as well.
Were those originally there, or were they pushed up there by the assholes?
Well, that's the thing, is that this part's unknown was because I think the same things. A lot of our native indigenous peoples were, much like in the U.S., were living around bodies of water. Like the Algonquins and the Ojibwa and the Mohicans and all of them. And what happens is, as Canada opened up and as the U.S. opened up and expanded, they got pushed further and further. So here you have your Indian territories. We had the same thing in what became known as the province of Manitoba. That originally was our Indian territories. And west of Manitoba, which is roughly here, there's nothing. Parts unknown. And we had our own version of Lewis and Clark go through right at around the same time. And his name was David Thompson. And he was commissioned by the Hudson's Bay Company to explore the West. And he explored basically, maybe 100 miles north of Lewis and Clark, right all along in here. He was a 19-year-old kid sent out from out east by the Hudson's Bay Company. Hey, go check out these northern territories, these parts unknown. Report back to us. He was a topographer, a part-time trapper, and an adventurer kind of a guy. But he was just a kid. And apparently he spent the winter along the banks of the Bow River, where Calgary is now, basically, at 19 years old. And same kind of narrative that's familiar to you guys down in the U.S., he would have died from the freezing cold blizzards out here in the prairies had it not been for the Indians that come and showed him how to live.
I was waiting for you to say Indian.
Yeah, the Indians had to show him how to survive.
It's like you didn't even have to finish. I knew where you were going with it, because it's same horseshit. It's like a stamp that it's like the story is stamped with the same bullshit. Incredible.
Yeah, and it's like, well, these crazy Canucks up here ain't gonna talk down here to these here folks for a long time, and by the time they do talk to one another, they're not gonna remember that these narratives are all hanky, so it's fine. Got some nice pictures of old Calgary.
That's crazy. Hey, I got a question about. Do you know the I don't know which map it is, but the map that has the Tartarian tents up there in Canada?
Yeah, where it's good. The Tartarian territories colored in pink, and it goes across into North America. I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it has the actual Tartarian. It says Tartaria or Tartarian, and then it has a teepee, like a tent, and it's kind of in the middle of the. I was just wondering where you think that pin on the map is today.
There's those lions, by the way.
Wow, yeah, that's old school.
There's 4 of them. 2 here and then 2 down at the other end there.
Are y'all finding the tunnels up there too? The brick tunnels? Have you found those yet?
There are some tunnels under the downtown, but the problem is that they've been reused to now be part of the existing streetcar and subway system. So they've been completely refurbished, and it's all poured concrete and all modern now. So all the old brick tunnels with the sort of the arched roof to the tunnels, that's all gone.
Yeah, they're down here. They're finding they're doing projects, and they're finding the old world brick tunnels, and they're they found them in it's either Seattle or San Francisco. I want to say San Francisco. They found them in Charleston, South Carolina, and in Tampa, Florida. But more. But they're finding them more and more as people are doing work. And
yeah. Well, I know
nobody has any idea what they are, where they came from, who built them, nothing, and they're all brick. brick.
Yeah, well, I know there's a tunnel that went from one of the big fancy hotels in downtown Calgary, the Palliser Hotel, which was built in the 1890s. There was a tunnel that went from that to a sandstone office building 2 blocks away, that in the lower floor, like the underground floor of that office building, was a speakeasy. So during the temperance movement and during Prohibition,
Yeah, same narrative here.
people who stayed in that hotel could supposedly, by that same old familiar narrative, could get down into the tunnels and go across the speakeasy, have a good old time, and sneak back to their hotel.
Same
and there's
bullshit
actually
here.
tunnels.
Wait a
There's a
minute.
huge
Well, hold on. Wait a minute. Whoa. Hold the press.
Uh-huh.
Y'all had Prohibition too?
Well, it wasn't Prohibition. We had what was called the temperance movement.
Oh, okay.
And it was I think it was in the 19 teens. It was maybe a decade and a half before you guys had your Prohibition. But it
Oh,
only
okay. So you had the same thing, just called it something different. It was a little bit earlier. Oh.
Yeah, and didn't go into law. It was based on your moral decision making.
Right, okay.
It was passed through legislation on a local level. So provincially, our provinces, much like your states down there, but it was never enacted on a formal law. But it only lasted about 2 or 3 years. Everybody bitched about it so much, and everybody knew that everybody was drinking anyways, including the politicians, that they eventually just said, "Oh, the hell with it."
Yep. I've come to the conclusion that that Prohibition was literally a way for them to explain why there were so many tunnels underneath the cities. Because every time you hear, "Oh, well, those are Prohibition tunnels."
Yeah. Well, there's back to the
when
map
the fuck
here.
did they build them? I mean, you know, seriously, you don't just build tunnels underneath the ground with nobody knowing.
Yeah, somebody's going to know about it, because you're going to have people to build them. And if you only got 1,000 people in your town, say half of them are men, say half of those men are of working age men, so you only got a couple of hundred men.
Well, not only that, you've got the damn the top of the damn tunnels are usually the vaults, which are basically have the sidewalk right over them. You couldn't build that without it being open.
Yeah,
so how the hell would you build it and nobody know about it? It makes no sense.
Yeah, well, they're just finding out. See, here's on this map, like Winnipeg, Manitoba, the province right here. In between Manitoba and Alberta, where I live, is a province called Saskatchewan. And in Saskatchewan, there's a town real close to the American border called Moose Jaw. And apparently there was a direct train line from Moose Jaw right down into Illinois, I think. Anyway, supposedly there's a link, they say, because there's a shitload of underground tunnels in Moose Jaw, which is a pretty small city, even by Canadian standards, only a couple 100,000 people. But there's tunnels all underneath Moose Jaw for the Canadian whiskey, because Al Capone supposedly used to run Canadian whiskey out of Moose Jaw. It was one of his, many tentacles that spread out in his booze empire during Prohibition. So there's this whole narrative in Moose Jaw that it's called Little Chicago, and Al Capone had been seen up there, and there's these underground tunnels underneath the hotel where the speakeasy was down there. And that's where he could go and drink, and that's where they made the booze and smuggled it out of there. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Why did we have to have speakeasies? We never had Prohibition. We only just had the temperance movement, and that only lasted 3 or 4 years.
Jeez. I was trying to find that map with the tent on it. I've got so many maps. I can't decipher one from the other. Let me see if I can look it up. Have you ever seen that map?
I think I have seen it, yeah. Let me see if I could find it too while we're at it.
I remember it was one of the higher resolution maps. That is definitely something I remember. Um, I wish I could remember which. See, I don't focus a lot on maps. It's just there's too many maps, and it's not something I've put a lot of focus into.
Yeah, me neither, to be honest with you. Again, like I just basically just try to take good video footage and really try to explore as close as I can. You know, the stuff that's immediately right here in my area. I mean, why go on Google Earth and Google Maps and globetrot all over the place, even though it ain't a globe? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, let's say the four corners of the Earth, let's say, or the four quarters of the Earth, when I'm seeing stuff like within literally 2 blocks away from where I live, right?
Right.
So the only thing that I get sidetracked in are them old trains. I just love them old trains.
I'm trying to stick to America for the most part, just because it's kind of like you're saying, go with what you know and go where
Yeah,
you are. And I don't really. A lot of people ask me to look at other places, but it's like, we've got people that are looking at those other places. I mean, I think that their voice on that is better than mine. I'm not there.
yeah.
Oh, here. Well,
I've got a subscriber. He may also subscribe to you. He's very insightful. He's got his own channel, and he's great. He's always been a huge supporter of me and encouraging me. And his channel name is Marcus Christians. And he said something to me in a comment one time, like left a comment under one of my videos I found very interesting. It was something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing very much so, but something
okay.
to the effect of each of us have our own role to play in this community. Some of us do boots on the ground. Some of us look at old documents. Some of us look at old photographs. Some of us go out and actually buy old antiques, old machinery, old equipment, old
Yeah.
maps. Each of us kind of contribute to this research in our own way through our own comfort level and what we're familiar with. I'm only really familiar with Montreal and Calgary, so that's
Right.
all I look at. The San Francisco stuff is fascinating. The Paris, France stuff, fascinating.
Oh yeah.
But but there's a lot of other channels that can do boots on the ground because they live in San Francisco or in Paris. So I'm not
Exactly.
going to bother really looking into it too much when I can just go to their channel. So I'm going to focus on what I can see and what I can document right here in my hometown in real time, edit
Yep.
as quickly as I can, put it up as quick as I can, and share it with people. And the idea was I want people, other Canadians and other people in wherever, all over the world, to go and look around in your little town. Because I'm willing to
Right.
bet dollars to good Canadian donuts that you're going to
Absolutely.
find the same stuff Caleb's finding in Utah, I'm finding in Alberta, you're finding in the Carolinas. Everybody's finding everywhere.
Yep.
You're going to find it in some little town in England, some goofy little place in the middle of Romania. It's all going to be very similar. And it doesn't
That's
have
what
to be
I'm
a big
trying to
city.
do. I'm trying to teach people, teach people and get people to see, to get out there and encourage them to do it themselves, because this stuff is being erased right before our eyes. And we need people to get out there and do this. I don't do boots on the ground because I don't drive. So,
Right.
and I'm in the middle of the country. So it's literally 10 miles in any direction to get to, or 7 to 10 miles any direction to get to anything.
Right.
So it's not, I'm not going to do that, but I can do what I do.
Right.
So yeah, everybody does a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't drive either. And I'd love to go and explore the middle of nowhere, Alberta, because I know damn well there's little towns,
Yeah.
300 people to 3,000 people that have a lot of these same buildings. My dad and I actually did a quick drive through of a little town in sort of, I don't know, central Alberta, because we were on a fishing trip and we stopped there to get gas. And we were driving through the town, and I said, Dad, will you look at this shit? Look at
Yeah.
these old brick buildings. And this town's further away from Medicine Hat, where all the bricks came from, than Calgary is. And it took the railroad even longer to get up there. So I said, Dad, can you explain this? And he says, I can't explain it. It's they gotta come horse and cart, son, because the railroad didn't come through here till 1904. And that building right there says 1884.
Yeah. Jeez.
And it's this little town of about 2,000 people, about an hour and a half drive north of Calgary. And it's not even on the main highway. It's slightly off the main highway, so it's kind of in the middle of nowhere.
It's called the Urbano Monte map.
Oh, okay.
And I've got it on somewhere, and I don't know where, but it's called the Urbano Monte. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's a map that's really, really big. It's phenomenal big.
Urbano Monte map. Yeah, there it is.
I've got it, the whole thing somewhere on my computer, but hell if I know where.
Yeah, it's that big square map.
Yeah, it's really big. It's not.
It's from.
I forget how big, but it's massive, big.
I think Campbell at Autodidactic showed that map recently.
And on that map, I'm trying to. There's a website somewhere where you can go and look at this thing, and it's you're able to see the real detail, but it's so big you got to have a massive you really have to have a big detailed map in order to see it. Here's one that's pretty good. Let's see if I can get in there. Oh, this one I think I might have found one. Now I gotta find America. Okay.
Man, you are lost if you can't find America.
Well, it looks different. Well, it's like looking at a flat Earth map. So it's a little bit weird. Oh, and it's cockeyed. Let me try to. Oh boy, what did I do? Okie dokie, I did something weird. Don't do that. Let me see.
I just put in the chat too the link to that Autodidactics video he did on that circling the square.
Here, I'll share the screen. I'm sitting here talking about something I could show you.
Yeah, that's the one.
I'm trying to get it turned to where we can look at the right spot. Okay, America. Dang it! Every time I turn, I get lost. Okay, that's it. That's what we need right there.
Yeah, there's where we need. Yeah.
Okay, it takes a second for it to focus in, and then I think it's in here.
There's your teepees. Yeah.
There'll be something that says Tartaria. So look for something reading, and it's near some lakes, I think. I remember it being like right here. I'm probably looking right at it. Or it says Tartaria or Tartars or...
I noticed it says Terra Incognito up there too. Just like it says in Antarctic.
I'm guessing that this is kind of like Alaska, maybe?
Yeah, Alaska and Yukon, yeah.
Maybe it's lower. I don't remember. I remember it being gosh, I'm not seeing it. I know it's there. I've seen it.
It's probably close to that lake right there. That's Lago Canibar.
Gosh, I'm not seeing it. I remember it had stuff just like this. There it is. Tartaria. Tartary.
Oh yeah, la compagnie Montadin. Okay, la campaña Mundo de Tartar. Okay, that's Spanish. Just close to
Okay.
French, so I can
Now
kind of
I'm
make
gonna
out.
bring it out
that.
and let's see if you can figure out where that is. It's right here, and then Florida's here, California's here. This
Yeah,
might be the Great Lakes. I don't know.
yeah. I'm wondering if that might be Manitoba. That might be like in and around Winnipeg, Manitoba, near Lake Winnipeg.
Check that out. It's got a griffin right there.
That's crazy.
See, that says Lake Connibus. What's weird is now this is a debate that's gone on and on. Is the where was Lake Connibus? And I think, in my opinion, Lake Connibus was over here. But I don't know. It's. I mean, how do we how accurate are these maps? Are we
Well, and that's the thing is that I'm not seeing Hudson's Bay or James Bay. I'm seeing the St. Lawrence. I'm seeing some lakes that look like maybe they're supposed to be representing the Great Lakes.
Iroquois? Is that the Iroquois? Maybe, I don't know. That's.
It could be, yeah.
I mean, it's not spelled right, but it's maybe. I don't know. I'm shooting in the dark here. This is. I'm not I'm not a mapper. I don't use maps to. I use maps. Kind of sparingly, because they're so inaccurate and they're so.
Yeah. Well, it's really, especially this map, is it's because it's supposedly so old that it's hard to even figure out what some of these.
This is right here is important because when people say, "Well, Tartaria was not in North America," well, why is it on the damn map? Right here.
Clearly says Tartary right there.
Right there, clear as bell, undeniable. Kiss my ass, both sides. And I'm not saying Tartaria was North America. That's not what I'm saying, and I don't think that's what you're saying either. But it's clear that there was a presence in some way, shape, or form of that country here.
Yeah, I mean, why incorporate that name to the supposed, still at this point, terra incognito, new world, supposedly, right?
And this is supposed to be Tartary right here. So let me see if I can. Let's look at that for a second. Okay, where was I? Every time I turn this thing, I get. Oh, okay, it's going the wrong way. You have to bear with me because it only turns one direction. Okay, that should be right.
Yeah.
Okay, Tartaria should have been right here.
Yeah.
Look at that. Tartaro.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the Tartarian Sea is what that is. Or Sea of Tartaria, if you prefer.
So, I mean, it's there. There's they didn't erase it all. They weren't as good as they think they were. But, we're piecing it back together. I mean, the best we can. I don't think we're ever going to have it perfect, but I don't know. If we can just prove that something happened, that I think that's the first step, is proving that this thing actually occurred in some way, shape, or form. How that occurred and the details are a whole different thing,
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right?
I don't know how we do it. I think about it all the time. Like, when I get up in the morning, I think, okay, what am I going to do to show people what I'm seeing? How do I share that with people? And I try to find.
And that's why that's why I try to be specific to where I am, because I have a lot of people commenting on my thing. It wasn't a mud flood; it was all melted. And I'm like, well, okay. I mean, I have seen other channels show pictures of of things that do look. I'm not talking about who you think I'm talking about. I'm talking about, okay, there's pictures here that does look like at one time it could have been a melted building, but much older. And we're not talking 1800s. We're talking 1600s, 1500s, 1400s. You know. So I'm like, yeah, okay. That I said, but my response to this commenter was like, look, I'm not seeing that in my immediate area where I live. I'm
And
not
that
seeing evidence of
there,
melted
nail on the
buildings
head right there.
here in Calgary. I'm
That
seeing evidence of potential mud flood here in Calgary. I'm not seeing potential melted buildings here in Calgary. Now, does that mean that it didn't happen in Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver? Possibly.
right.
I'm just not seeing it here. Or
You know,
maybe it happened in Alberta, but not in Calgary.
that is the point that I'm trying to drive home to people, is that it depends on your location what happened, that there's different things going on. It's like John's video today, he was going on and on about how he was in Utah and going out in this desert area, and he was showing what he thought were melted buildings in his area. Now, I am not on the I'm not saying they are melted buildings or not melted buildings, because I don't think just looking from a distance you can make that determination. But here's the thing: the the structures, for lack of better words, whether they're mountains or buildings or melted buildings, whatever they are that he's looking at there in Utah, is not, I repeat, not the same thing that are in North Carolina mountains. They're different.
Yes.
And so when people say mountains are melted buildings, it pisses me off, because you know what? Maybe there are some what you call mountains that are melted buildings, but what I see in my area is not what you're saying. And they will not hear it. They shut you down. The conversation just comes to a standstill as soon as you disagree with them that not everything is melted. And then it's like, well, what about mud flood? Then they say, well, there is no mud flood. They think there was this brick ash flood, but then you like, okay, well, explain that. They can't explain it. We don't know how it happened. We don't know. It's X factor.
See, I'm of the thought that depending where you live in this realm, and whatever the event was, how it spewed forth as an event depended on where you were geographically. So, for example,
what
we don't
about
get
time
earthquakes.
frame? It could have happened at different times, and it's two different or three different or 10 different events.
Sure. Like, we don't have volcanoes or earthquakes here in Alberta. So if there was a reset event that destroyed stuff, it wouldn't have, our stuff here in Calgary that I'm seeing wouldn't have been destroyed by volcano or earthquake. I'm seeing it was destroyed by what we call mud flood. That's what I'm
Whatever
seeing.
that is.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Now,
I mean, I have my theory on how it happened, but see, I really have two mud flood theories. I have theory A, which is the man-made mud flood, which I don't know if you've watched my video on it, but I have my own theory on that.
Yeah.
And then I have a secondary theory, which actually I think is more plausible, but I have no way to prove it, and that is that it's all a simulation, and they just changed the matrix.
Right. Okay, I see what you mean. And an example of that would be those squiggly creek bed that I showed you in northern Alberta.
Exactly.
That's like a glitch in the matrix to me, almost. You know what I'm saying?
It's, I think people don't give the creator or God or whatever you want to call it, the source of everything, the creator of this realm. I don't think we give that creator enough credit as to what can be done. And the way I see it is that the creator has the ability to create this, I call it God's holodeck, and that God can create in God's mind this world, this universe or multiverse or whatever we live in in
Yeah.
God's mind, and it's all a simulation. It's not a computer simulation. It's it's God's mind.
It's almost like a biochemical electrical simulation, as
Yeah,
opposed to
yeah.
a nuts and bolts simulation kind of thing. Yeah.
It's more like a quantum computer. You know, but it's not hardware and software. It's like you said, it's biological and electrical, and I mean everything's electric. I mean, and
Yeah.
every I don't know, but it actually makes more sense to me that it it it, it was changed, that the simulation was changed than it actually does my mud flood theory that was done by man. But most people can't grasp that concept. And so I gave them a possibility of how it could have been done by man.
Right.
And I could go either way. It could have been even both. I don't
Yeah,
know.
sure. Well, and that's the point that I make with some of the people that comment, well, what about melted buildings and so on and so forth? And I say, look, you have to understand where I am. First of all, I'm in the prairies in Canada. And Calgary geographically is right. I mean, that's why I named my channel New West Reset. They call Calgary the gateway to the New West in Calgary.
Yeah, I was
Just
wondering that. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense now.
basically
Okay.
45-minute drive due west of where I
Okay.
am, and you're in the Rocky Mountains. And our Rocky Mountains are so high and so tall that even in the summer, there's snow on the peaks of these mountains.
Oh wow,
So
that
they
is
ain't
high.
melted buildings. They ain't melted buildings, okay? Unless they're, 13,000-foot buildings.
Yeah, that on that point, I
Maybe.
used to live
I
in the
got
mountains of North Carolina, and I actually have been inside of the mountains in a gem mine. And I went in there and I dug that rock with my own bare hands and a pickaxe and a masonry hammer. And
Yeah.
I know I can tell you without a doubt, 100% fact, that there was not one single fucking red brick in that whole structure. In that whole,
Yeah.
what I call a mountain, not once did I see a damn red brick. So these idiots that say everything is a melted red brick building have never done that. They've never been in there. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And it's insulting to my intelligence when they tell me that I dug with my bare hands and pulled a fucking sapphire the size of my fist out of that rock is a melted red brick. Kiss my ass.
Yeah, go pound sand with that. Yeah, get on down the road with that.
It's
Well, see, and
insulting.
the other thing about Calgary is that basically where Calgary is where the flat prairies, the wheatlands, much like your Midwest, your breadbasket of America. Same thing with our prairies, right? Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. It's all wheatlands, but where Calgary is where the rolling foothills start. It's where that flat, bald ass prairie ends. And now you get to the rolling foothills and you go about 75 to 100 kilometers due west of where Calgary is. And then you get from the rolling foothills to the big jagged peaks of the Rocky Mountains. So you can see the progression of the land. So,
Right.
but Calgary's kind of a bowl surrounded by these foothills. So my theory for Calgary is that whatever the event was, all the land, the dirt, the soil, the crap that's on these surrounding hilltops slid down into the bowl of where Calgary was, and you had anywhere from 5 to 15 feet, depending on the existing elevation of wherever the buildings were, of this land that got inundated with moisture and slid down.
That's what okay. I'm looking at Calgary now. I'm seeing no what we call mountains near Calgary, or at least near enough to get the mud to Calgary. Okay, I would say the closest ones are these.
You got to look at Nose. You got to look at Nose Hill in Calgary, which is a massive hill.
Okay, where is that? Let me look at that.
In Calgary, when you go to Calgary, there it's that big green blob right above where it says Calgary. That's Nose Hill.
Okay, well let's ignore that for just a second. Okay, if you look around, okay, there are no mountains other than these, correct?
That's correct. There's hills, but no mountains.
Hills, but no mountains. Now, those mountains, in my opinion, okay, for what it's worth, are too far away to be a mud flood culprit. That
I
they're,
agree.
I don't know. Okay, let me see. Let me measure the distance here. Let's do some actual scientific. Okay, let's say the center of Calgary, that is 40 miles away. Okay. I think, in my opinion, for what it's worth, that is too far away to transfer mud from this position 40 miles to this position. Now,
Yeah, me too.
in my man-made theory, where I think they basically made it rain somehow over an area, and that created the mud. What if, and this is something I hear all the time, well, my area has no hills. Well, correct. If you made enough rain on a hill long enough and it washed into mud, it's going to do what's called sluicing, and it's
Yeah,
going
it's
to
eventually
dissolve.
gone.
It's going to be gone.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
right here may be an old small mountain right here. And you have to wonder, is there a way to, I hate, dare I say the word, geologically test the soil here and the soil in, say, the middle of Calgary?
yeah.
Because there might be some sort of sediment that they could say, well, wait a minute, that sediment came from those hills. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just shooting
Yeah.
out in the dark here. If I
Well,
had
that
to
Bull
guess,
River that runs.
that's it right there. Okay, here's another thing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's my
my
guess too.
theory is that they came in with the trains, and you said the trains were right here. And then you got the train going over this way, and it goes right through town, right? I mean,
Yep.
theoretically, they could have come in here, parked the train with this cloudbuster weapon, and pinpointed it, triangulated it over that hill, made it rain, and the mud came in. Now, here's another thing. What if there was another hill we don't even know about?
Well,
You know,
there's Scotsman Hill. There's it's even labeled Scotsman Hill.
where's that at?
Just a little south of where you are, just a little south of that crossroads mark. There it is, Scotsman. Oh, zoom in a bit. There, that sort of teal-colored bubble. It says Scotsman Hill, right beside the Scotiabank.
That right there?
To your right, where it says Scotiabank Saddle Dome, to the right of that, it says Scotsman Hill.
Oh, I was looking somewhere else. Okay, yeah. Okay, so there's another hill right there. Well, see, that would be, I would even say that is a better culprit, and I tell you why. Because when I was in the mid-sentence of saying it ran into here, I realized, oh yeah, there's a river right here. Okay, well, this would be more of a candidate for this right here. Easily could be the culprit. Yeah. This right here could have come later, or they could have dug this out. This could have been something they added. This, who knows? But that's all saying that a man made, and that's just my theory. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not saying I know how it happened. I'm just saying that's my theory. That's the best I got from a man-made perspective. I believe that if somebody took a cloudbuster, they could recreate this event. Theoretically, you could take a cloudbuster and make it rain over a hill and make the shit turn to mud. In theory, it's scientifically possible to test this theory of mine.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't,
I'm going to go by whether it was a man-made cataclysm or whether it was a naturally occurring cataclysm. For my immediate area, it would have been some kind of mud flood or landslide or mudslide or whatever you want to call it. In my area, geographically, that's what I think it would have been.
And you don't have the evidence of the quote unquote melted buildings where, I don't see a damn melted building anywhere. Not near you. You know what I mean?
Nope.
So yeah,
Now,
I mean,
again, mind you, it's a boom
they,
town. They knock down the buildings
they
real quick
say,
here and build up the monstrosities real quick too. But I'm finding hundreds of old buildings, hundreds.
oh yeah, and there's more when you start getting into the. From my experience, I will tell you, if you'll start going into the histories and start looking at the buildings that were there originally, it's going to get so much more interesting to you than what you've already found, because it's not even what's still there, it's what was destroyed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the old Catholic cathedral in Ruleville had onion domes on it. It's gone.
Oh wow. Did you have any
But I got
orphanages?
but I got pictures of it. Yeah.
You had orphanages?
Um, yeah, we had a couple of orphanages. They're now schools.
Because those are possible old world buildings.
Yeah.
I would definitely look at those. I was looking at this is something that's a lot more difficult to figure out, as if it's a viaduct city. I don't know if you've seen my research on that, but the viaducts are that's kind of a whole nother thing. This
Yeah,
right
those.
here is technically a viaduct,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean that it's what this just could be a bridge. It
Yeah.
what
Well,
makes
that
it
I know
a
is a modern. That I know is a modern bridge.
right, but this is what you look for. You look for where they come in from. It's either over a river or over interstate usually.
Yeah.
And what they do is they bring you in and they change the grade. What they want to do is they want to make the grade of the entire city the same. And so they create these viaducts, which are basically raised platforms, what you would call a bridge, and they connect them. And what'll happen? Have you seen my video on Atlanta Underground, the viaducts?
I don't think I have. I may have.
Okay. Well,
Sure.
if you haven't seen that one, I would highly suggest that one to you, because what my what I showed in that video is that Atlanta, Georgia is a viaduct city, and what I mean by that is that the entire city is a viaduct.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What that means is that everything you're looking at is okay. Let's say that this is
It's built on
Atlanta.
a big platform, basically.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
what it'd be like, you looking at this, and every city is a raised platform, every single road.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying this is, I'm just saying that this is how they do it. This you would see something like this. Now, getting determining that it's a viaduct city is a much different. It's a much more complicated thing. Cleveland, Ohio, is a viaduct city. There are others.
Well, I can
The
tell
vi-
you, as you come into Calgary on any of the major thoroughfares, whether it's from the east, from the west, the south, or the north, you descend into the city as you're approaching the city.
Okay. I don't. I mean, from what I'm seeing here, just a preliminary thought is that I don't think that your city is a viaduct city, because it's such a flat plain.
Yeah.
You don't have the hills that we have
Oh,
in
there's a Stampede grounds, by the way.
where
There's
this.
a Stampede. Yeah.
And how old is this? When did they build this?
The grandstand was built in the 20s, but it's been renovated and remodeled several times. But
Okay.
a lot of it is still the original grandstand.
Well, if it's before 1943, I would look into it. At least give it a second glance.
Oh yeah, it was built in the 20s. Like I said, it's just been
Because
added on to since.
now
But
that's
the
not mean
track is
this
the
old
original.
world. Um,
That track's still the original track for the chuck wagon races, the Rangeland Derby. They have horse racing there, harness racing, all of that. And then in the center of the track, in the middle there, is where they have the actual rodeos, saddle bronc, bareback, bull riding, calf roping, so on.
Wow.
And then they have a big fairgrounds and a midway and rides and all that bullshit too, right?
That's
But yeah, it's
wild.
been going in that same location for annually for 100 years, but prior to that, it was sort of semi-annually for about 10 years. It's been going since about 1902, 1904, kind of somewhere in there, in the exact same spot.
I'll show you. I've got one picture of the Atlanta viaducts that explains what a viaduct is in no better way than I could possibly explain it to you. Let me see. Let me find that picture for you.
I did my live stream in July, because I do one a month, and it's usually around the middle of the month. My live stream in July was on the Calgary Stampede and the whole history of the Stampede. And I had a blast doing that live stream. And everybody in the chat, we were just having a great old time.
Yeah, keep it up. People really like live streams. You know, it's something that I didn't originally start out doing. It takes a lot of effort to do that. I don't think people realize how much, you know, goes into it to get it, you know, to get it going.
Yeah, like I just use StreamYard because it's real user friendly for a guy like me, because I'm not exactly the most technologically savvy cat walking the earth, but
Yeah.
so it's just real easy for me to use.
Yeah, I like StreamYard too.
I find you're always winging it, and the script. Even if you're winging it and you're not using a script, you still have to prepare, and it's a lot of work. You know, gathering up photos or
Oh yeah,
bookmarking websites so you can share all the whatever it is you're going to talk about. It's almost as much work as just blah-bitty-blahing in a half-hour video and then editing all that, putting pictures up, you know, checking all your sound, and just uploading a half-hour video.
yeah.
You know, it takes like 4 hours to do a half-hour video.
I don't I do unscripted, but you know, there's still a lot of preparation behind it that, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't I like pull pictures and thoughts of things I want to go talk about or look at, but I don't script it as to what I'm going to say. That's all from the seat of my pants. And
Yeah,
I don't know. I learned
the same.
When I woke up, I watched a lot of or listened to a lot of Alex Jones, and so you know, listening to him, and he was unscripted, and I just took that to heart. That
teleprompter free over here.
Yeah, I mean, and I like that. I mean, it's I'm trying to find that picture. I can't even find my own pictures now.
I do the same thing. Like a lot of times I'll just be walking to work, and I'll purposely now take different routes, whatever, however you want to say it, to and from work, because I'm like, okay, I know that there's a cool old 2-story red brick house down this street that they say was built in 1885. So I'll just quickly on my way home film it with my phone, get home, upload it, put my little intro at the beginning and my little outro at the end, and that's it.
I'll tell you what. This is the picture, but let me download it and then I can zoom in on it.
All right. Yeah, that looks pretty interesting.
I'll explain to you what you're seeing, because it's this will explain this. There's only one picture of this that I have found. They don't want you to know this stuff. Which one is it? It's this one. But let me know when you see that picture.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, this is Atlanta, Georgia, and this is when they were putting in the viaducts. And the viaduct, if you'll see, you've got a building here and a building here, and you notice that they put this is today's street level.
Okay,
And
yeah.
they come in and they would put in these pieces here, and then they would put in a steel beam here, and they would just do that down the road, and then put in build a bridge, basically a bridge over top of that, the street over top of that. But you have all this underneath Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, and I can see
And
where they've built up the road there, right to the right of where that little wooden fence is. You can see there's a street level door there.
right. And
Which
there
used
are
to be a window,
sections of
obviously.
in Atlanta, there's sections. There's a place called the Gulch, and it's 40 feet deep. The viaduct is 40 feet deep.
Holy smokes!
Imagine what's under that.
So that 40 feet's no joke. That's a lot of room.
Hell yeah! I mean, and they pass it off. Oh, we wanted to run the subway under here.
Right, or the sewage, or pipes. It. Yeah.
And today, I'll show you. I'll show you what it looks like today. Let's see. No. I'll show you what it looks like today. Are you seeing what I'm looking at?
Yeah, I see.
Okay. Now, today, you go into Atlanta. See if I can find the Gulch for you. You can actually see it. Oh wait, I think I just saw it. I think the Gulch is I think might be it right there. There's one space. I think this is the Gulch right here, but I'm not positive. I haven't looked at this in a while. But what I'm saying is everything in this area here, at least. Now, I don't know. I haven't done the research to go further out than this, but this area right here is all viaduct. I've confirmed every road. It's all viaduct. And if you see how it comes in on these bridges, that's a viaduct.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
And there's places that you can still see what they've done. You just have to know how to look for it and what to look for. There's a place. Let me see if I could find it. Should be right here. See anything that says underground? Let's see. Okay, there it is. Okay. This right here is a place they call Underground Atlanta.
Okay.
And it is literally this area right here, okay? That's all it is. And they have this complete underground shopping center there, right? And it's got they use the old world bottom floors as the shops, okay?
Oh, I get you. Yeah, okay.
But all this is a cover up for the fact that the entire city is that way.
Yeah.
And people don't know this. And so I came out with a video. It's got 8,500. It shot up to 7,500 views. It's got like 8,600 now, but it shot up to 8,500 or 7,500 views in 1 week, and then YouTube clamped it, and they won't let it. They won't let it out of the gate anymore. But this whole area is a platform. Every bit of every street you see here is a platform. It's a raised platform. And you just have to know how to look at it in order to see it properly.
Yeah, that's
you
crazy.
See what I'm saying? You just have to have the right eye.
In between some of those buildings, you can see it shoots way down there.
way down there. Yes, it is absolutely undeniable. See that? I mean, once
Yep.
you see it, it's like, fuck, holy shit, you know?
Yeah, that's not a bridge though. That's a road. Oh wait, that ain't a road. It's a whole city block. Oh wait, it's not the whole city block. It looks like pretty much all the downtown core.
Yeah.
And you could see where when you zoom out a bit, where it highlights the roadways, you can see all the roads coming into the elevated section.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's I have a whole list of cities that people are sending me that they're saying I think my city is a viaduct city, and so I have a whole list of these things I've got to check out.
Right by your cursor there, where you could see there's a huge wall that goes up to that little green space, that little park, that little pie-shaped green space there, Mayor's Path or whatever that says, or Mayor's Park. But look at that huge wall.
Yeah.
Right, so that everything is at that same level now as the top of that retaining wall.
Right.
For blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks.
You notice how flat it is. It's
yeah.
all flat. And if you look at the old pictures, the roads are hills.
Yep.
And now the hills are gone in the pictures. Now, I'll show you another city that I've determined 100% is a viaduct city, and that is Cleveland, Ohio. In Cleveland, I learned this when I was doing my Christmas video, my Christmas story video.
Right.
And I was looking at this city, and this is actually how I figured out viaducts is through this city. Let me get my bearings here. And what I learned. Okay, give me a second. It takes me a second to get my. Every time I go to these cities, I have to reorient myself. Okay, that is. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, I got myself now. Okay. There is a building right here. Okay, you see this big sucker right here?
Mm-hmm. That's a beauty, by the way. That's a real.
Oh yeah. I think it's old world. It has a later date. It was built in like the 1920s or 30s or some shit like that. But I think it's old world. But the way I figured this out was that I realized that there were construction pictures of this building. And in the construction pictures, you could clearly see the underground here around this building.
Okay.
And so then when I started looking around, I realized that you could still see this underground underneath the viaduct.
Yeah, there it is right there. Yeah, look at that.
Okay, now, then I came over here and you can see it.
Oh, yeah.
And look right here.
Yeah.
See that?
Huh.
And then another place that you can see it real good is over here. You can see the edge of it right here.
Yeah, look at that.
See that?
Look how high that wall is. That wall is so huge.
That is a viaduct. And then if you read into the history of Atlanta, you learn that there is actually, it's like, okay, here's the way I figured out that this is a viaduct, right? But I didn't know what a viaduct was. Matter of fact, when I talked to Campbell and when I talked to Martin, I asked them about this. I said, do you know about the viaducts? And they said, there's a confirmed underground underneath this too. But all this has got underground, every bit of this. And I said, I made the little comment. I said, do you know about the viaducts? And they said the aqueducts. Both of them said the same thing.
Oh, they
I
thought you were
said,
mistaking viaducts for aqueducts.
right.
Ah,
And I said, no, 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 no. I said, these are viaducts. And they're like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I explained it to them and they still didn't know what I was talking about. I'm like, okay, it's time for a video. So that's when I made my video. And I was going to do Cleveland, but in the process of doing Cleveland, I ran across um, Atlanta. And I'm like, wait a minute. And when I looked into Atlanta, um, they actually talk about the viaduct building that they did. They actually have a history, not much of a history, but there's actually a history written where they built the viaducts.
well, I'll be.
And so it's like, well, wait a minute, why is this not known?
Yeah, why? If it's easy to find, why isn't it common knowledge for even for people that live in Cleveland?
I don't know. And then it's
Hell,
like,
I know a guy that lives in Cleveland.
really?
Yeah,
And you ought to ask him about it. And I bet she's never heard of it.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of another city. I think it's either I want to say Cincinnati was another one that people have recommended. And I haven't looked into any others like on an actual research level. It's just time, but um, I have a list of these things because I started collecting the names of the cities when I did that video because so many people were sending me, uh, names of cities. Are like, I think my city's like this. But it's a complicated thing to figure out because most of the cities don't have any history of it. And then, Knoxville, Tennessee has been confirmed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
That's another one that that is actually you know it's just in how see right there is a little bit of something
Yeah.
interesting the way that looks. I haven't looked into this one. It's just I know it's on my list of people have sent this and said, hey, look at my city, what do you think? Because there's something going on here.
And that
And no
kind of
doubt.
goes
Go
hand
ahead.
in hand with what I was saying with why I started my channel is, I wanted people to go like, you don't even have to be Canadian. I mean, I don't care where you're from. Doesn't matter to me. The point is get out there and look at your own stomping grounds with a critical eye because I'm willing to bet you're going to find all kinds of crazy anomalies, whether it's viaducts, whether it's mud flooded windows, whether it's crazy copper domes with weird tech that doesn't look like it belongs, you know.
Right.
And we've seen time and time again that it's not just big cities. It can be some little town in the middle of nowhere. I mean, Caleb's proven that time and time again, just in Utah, for crying out loud, just in one state, in one country.
Right. Yeah, he is if you ask him, he will tell you that he thinks it's actually um, easier to prove mud flood through the small towns than the big cities. Um, I tend to go with the that it's both, that you could prove it with both just as easy.
Well,
But I think he has a
I see
great
where
point.
he's coming from because a smaller town in the middle of nowhere may not change as much over decades as a bigger city where they're constantly knocking down and rebuilding. But, if it's a town of 500 people, they don't need some big brand new building necessarily.
I
They can
think
just
that's more
make
his
do
point.
with what they've got, right?
Yep.
However, with that said, when you get into a bigger city, you can find a greater number of buildings, though. So yeah, I
Right.
see what you're saying. It can be kind of both, depending on how you want to do your research, right?
Right. It's yeah. There's good points to be made by both ways. I don't stick to either one. I think both are like I didn't when I went to look at Raleigh. That's my hometown, and I wanted to research somewhere that I felt had that I could when I wanted to research a city that I could add something to, and I thought, what city could I do? And I thought, well, why don't I just do Raleigh, because that's where I grew up. And then I
Right.
thought, well, this is going to suck because there's nothing in Raleigh. I thought, well, I've been in, I know all about Raleigh. I know every inch of this city, and there's nothing in Raleigh. And I came in with the attitude that, well, I'm going to prove this wrong. And I realized very quickly that I didn't know shit about my town.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's kind of what I've come to find out about Calgary too, you know.
So,
And again, coming from Montreal, from out east, I mean, there's brick buildings everywhere. I mean, you just build a modern house with brick because you can't swing a dead cat without hitting brick out there, so it's cheap. And then
I'll
moving
give
out
you,
here, and I noticed there wasn't as many. And as a kid, I even remember asking my dad, "How come all the houses and buildings look different?" And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, it's like our house in Montreal, well, not right in Montreal, but our house in Montreal was a brick house, but it was a new house." And he said, "Yeah, no, they didn't have a lot of brick in Calgary, son. They used sandstone and yada yada instead, because sandstone's everywhere." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, Daddy." And now fast forward, a few decades later, and I'm like, "Well, wait a second. I'm seeing brick buildings all over the place, and
right,
not modern buildings. Sure, some of them after the railroad, but some of them prior to the railroad, even by their own narrative."
exactly.
So that's why I was like, yeah, same as you. Like, I don't know diddly squat about Calgary. I thought I did, but I don't.
I'm trying to find a specific building to show you, to give you this will be, my brain's a little fried. I'm trying to think of the name of the building. I think it's Edwards. No. Oh boy. Um, Hold on. Oh, there's so many buildings. It's they all blend together at some point. Um, there's a building that Moore Square.
I do the same thing. I have a couple of subscribers that live here in Calgary. And they're like, "Hey, why don't you go check out such and such place or such and such house?" And I got to the point where I literally had gone old school, and I actually keep a notepad and a pen, and I actually physically write it down on a notepad. Go check out the Hart House. Go and check out this building, that building.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, I'll
Def-
forget.
oh, I keep I just keep a pad right by my desk where I can you know I'll write down a name of a building, and then I'll be like, well, what the hell did I write that down for? And then I'll go look for it, and it's like, holy crap! Like,
Yeah, yeah.
when did I learn about that? I don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
there it
same thing
is.
here. I've gone and checked out a couple of buildings that were suggested by folks that live here in the city that are
Yeah,
subscribed, and they were tickled that somebody in Calgary is doing this kind of content.
man, I'm trying to find this one particular building. Okay, I found.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You're in South Carolina, right?
I'm in North Carolina.
Oh, you're in North Carolina. Oh, I apologize. My mistake.
It's America's kind of all one hodgepodge of crap. I don't know what it's like up there, but this place sucks.
Well, we've got a pretty our our leader is very socialist leaning, lefty
Oh, really?
socialist leaning.
Yeah. Well, we're
Yeah,
fascist here,
Justin
so
Trudeau. Justin Trudeau's his name, and he's a bloody socialist dictator.
yeah, yeah. I've heard of him. Yeah. Hey, well, it's all fascism. That's what they want. Ah, here we go. I found it finally. Okay. All right. I got to show you this in the right order. That's the there have do you know what brutalist facading is?
Yeah, where they purposely make it look ugly so that you walk by and
Yes,
don't pay attention, kind of thing.
correct.
They take what was perhaps once an aesthetically pleasing looking building and they just make it look utilitarian and kind of fugly.
Exactly. Okay, now I'm gonna share screen with you and oh, start sharing. Let me know when you see that.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah, I see it.
this building, my whole life, at least, okay, from me being a child until I woke up in 2008, and it was actually I think later that they did this, but my whole life, this little building right here, I passed by it all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a bank, shitty little building, absolute crap, right?
Yeah.
No reason to enjoy this building or look at this building or give a damn about what the history of this building is. Now, you're about to get a lesson in brutalist facading, okay? Recently, they uncovered the building. Can you see this? I might need to
Uh,
switch screens. Is it the same? Okay.
Same. Yeah, it's still the
Okay, let
same.
me I'm gonna have to switch. I'm gonna have to switch screens. Yep. Okay. Let me know when you see it.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
That is
What
the same fucking building. They took
what
the
a
brutalist
beauty.
facading off. That is the original building.
What a gorgeous building.
Are you kidding me?
That's a beauty. Come on. Why would they cover that? Well, we know why they would cover it up, but
It was a bank, and there's a vault. It's a confirmed lower levels below here.
mhm.
There's a vault down there. I don't even think this is the original first floor. And then there's a picture. See if I can show it. This is an that's an I got a better one. Wait a minute. This is an old picture of it. And before it was a bank, it was the coffin house. It was the funeral home. It was
Oh,
where
okay.
they built the coffins, and it was like the big funeral home in Raleigh, North Carolina. And but this is what it looked like. But my whole life, it looked brutalist facade just like this. That's what I knew that building. So when they undid that building, and I'm doing my research, I'm like, what the hell building is that? I've never
Yeah.
seen that building. And when I realized where this was, I used to drive by this building like every day and never even noticed it.
No, you wouldn't even look at it. You wouldn't even have a reason to even look up at it. But that's a beauty.
So this is a lesson in brutalist facading. It does not, to me, does not get any better of a lesson in what they've done to cover over what was here.
Yeah, I mean, people would be fawning and tripping over themselves to open a business in a building like that compared to the ugly facade.
Today
Hell,
it's a bar.
I'd
They,
sit
they
down and eat my lunch on that little bench right out by that door. A guy could sit down there and just enjoy it.
and chill.
But the previous monstrosity with the brutalist facade, geez, that's you got to choke back puke. Never
I
mind
think it's
enjoying lunch.
that's another. This is the corner of the building. I don't think I have any more pictures of it, but that right there is the best I can do to explain brutalist facading to anybody
Yeah.
in the simplest terms of what. Here's the thing. Okay, I can give you another example in the same place. Let me share screen. Um, there is a street in Raleigh called Fayetteville Street. It's the main street going down. This is the original, what they say is the original main street of Raleigh. Okay.
Okay.
Now, originally, all the way down this road, there were the small buildings like you have.
Yeah.
And you'll see that there's still some of them left. They're right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Okay. They were all the way down the street. Now, at one time, this is supposedly one of the oldest buildings in Raleigh. This one right here. Okay. This is
Okay.
called Briggs Hardware. Now, this is Boylan Pierce. And these buildings my whole life were brutalist facaded. Okay. So when I walked down here when I was young, all of this was brutalist facaded. And matter of fact, I may even be able to show you. No, it's not going to show. Down, if you go further down the road, I don't think I'm going to be able to show you there. I'd actually have to go in. If I have pictures that will explain this one day when I get it done, but where everything is brutalist facaded, and it all like this is brutalist facade.
Yeah.
Right.
So everything looked like that.
Yeah. And
So
see,
they took it one step further than the crappy signs and the crappy awnings, and they just put up a whole new frontage to the building, a whole new facade.
they just put metal facade over the front of the buildings. They covered over them, stuck over them. I was hoping I could show it to you on the satellite, but it's not bringing up. I might let me try here. Sometimes going backwards it changes. See, there's a brutalist facade right there. That I don't know if you just saw that change. I'm going to change it. Well, let me change it back. No, that's no. I think okay. This it's not okay. I know just from my research, this right here is actually an old world opening. It has the fancy arches and everything here, but they put this crap over front of it. Now another example that they do is right here. Okay, this is a really old building. This is the post office, and if you look right here, you got Mudflood windows, right?
Yep.
And you go to the front, and it's got that the old world look and everything. Now, if you go right here, you would say there's Mudflood windows there, right? Okay.
Yep.
Now, if you go to the back, okay, it looks like this. Now, what I'm going to tell you, this is where you have to do, where real research comes into play. You've got to be on your A game when you do this. And the reason is only half of this building is a Mudflood building. And I'll tell you why. In, I believe, the 50s, they added half of this building, the back half, and they mirrored what was on the front.
Oh, so they could integrate it and make it seamless.
Seamless. So what you see today is not the original building. The original building, and I think that they've done a lot of facading on this too, and changed this because this doesn't even match the old pictures as much as I remember. I'll probably have to go and do more looking at that, but this right here was the original building. And now it looks exactly the same on the back. You can't tell the difference. If you split this building right down the middle, all this is new.
Oh, wow.
Now there was another this one's kind of hard to explain, but at one time there was a real nice old world hotel right here. Matter of fact, there was old world buildings all down this road right here. There's pavement light right here.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
an
look
old
at that.
world building right there. And right here was a place called the Academy of Music. Now it's the courthouse. And there was a major underground here, and it went all, there was pavement light all across here and all the way down here. And they came in and they regraded this road. It used to have a huge hill here. and they regraded the road to make it less of a grade. So
Oh,
this
okay.
this is another thing you have to look out for, is what's called regrading. This is not the original grade of the road. This used to have, and I can show in pictures how this had a huge dip right here. I mean, it was a great sledding hill. So it's a very, very complicated thing we're dealing with. Now here I'll show you another one. This is our prison was right here. Now today this is Central Prison. It's called Central Prison, but originally it was called the State Penitentiary of North Carolina, and it was located right here. Okay, it was this whole area. It was a huge, like, Batwing style 5-story son of a bitch.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And the original wall is right here.
Oh yeah, okay. And you can even see the original guard towers too. Yep.
And that thing is big. This satellite doesn't do it justice. That is a big wall. But that was attached to the building that was right here. And then we had over here, we had another Batwing, and this was the insane asylum, and they brutalist facaded this. You can't even tell that this was even a nice building. It's completely stuccoed over.
Yeah, there's there's a building here that just basically 4 blocks from my place. And same thing, I used to walk by it all the time and never give it a second look because it was ugly. They covered it in all that corrugated sheet metal. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yep.
But one thing always struck me as odd is the main entrance to the building was on the corner of the building instead of on one of the flat sides of the building.
Huh?
And I thought, well, that's weird because you don't see modern buildings much like that anymore. So I looked into it. Turns out that building was built in the 1890s, and it was beautiful old red brick and sandstone building. So I found original black and white pictures of it. And it was a gorgeous old building, and now it just looks like a piece of crap. And I think that's in my latest video that I uploaded, what are we at here, Sunday? So Friday. No, today, earlier today.
But you were talking about the school with the smokestack and the steam, and I was telling you about the steam plant.
Yeah.
This is the original steam plant to that insane asylum right here, and it used to have a smokestack right here.
Oh, okay.
And it was near the building, and that was the original steam for this facility.
Yeah, and they would just pump the steam directly from the steam house or right under the ground through pipes right into the building.
Yep. The original steam plant for let's see if I can find it. The original steam plant for Raleigh, the city, was over here. Now it's a bar, but the steam plant was right here. And the trolleys, this was the trolley house. This is where they came and brought the trolleys to fix them.
Oh,
in this building right here. And they would bring them in from this side here, in through a door here. And then there was the underground, they had some kind of system where the mechanics could go underneath the trolleys over underneath this side.
Yeah.
So it actually, you see it goes uphill, but this is the old trolley barn. But see, if you don't do the research, you're going to look at this and you're going to think there's nothing to that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you have no idea that used to be the trolley maintenance barns, and that's where they worked on the trolleys.
How would you know? How would you know this is the old steam plant? How would you know there used to be a smokestack here? How would you know that the original turbines are still in the building? How would you know?
Yeah, that's like the old pump house that I shot last summer. That's just 5 minute walk from my place here. It's now just a community theater and art gallery, and they do, artsy fartsy stuff over there. But it still has all the original mechanics inside from the 1890s, or no, 1910, I think is the narrative on it, something like that. 1900, give or take a decade, right? And
Right.
it still has all the old machinery and everything in there, the old pumps and all of that stuff.
Absolutely. This is an old Second Empire house, and this one, it actually this right here this is modern, this piece right here. But what you do is you go down some stairs right here, and it takes you into an underground bar underneath. This is now a restaurant. And so this whole thing has an entire underground level that you could go in and have a beer and dinner in today.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah.
Now, the restaurant, they actually have a restaurant on this level, and then they have catered restaurant up here, catering rooms. But then there is an entire bar underneath here, and the entrance is right here. But how would you know that? I mean, it's an upscale 5-star restaurant. How would you know that? You wouldn't. So, anyways, that's kind of about where it is. But I tell you, I gotta get going. I gotta work in the morning. I got this dog. He's ready to go out, so I need to.
All right.
I need to head on.
Yeah, me too. I gotta work tomorrow too, but it's not as late here. It's only 7:45 here, so.
Oh yeah, it's almost 10 here, 9:45. Yeah. But
well,
I enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoyed it, Beags. Thank you very much for the invite. Appreciate it. We'll have to do it again when you have the time.
No problem. I love to talk. I'm not as big an asshole as a lot of people think I am. It's just it's a matter of people that they can't get their perspective out of their ass. So,
well, you gotta stand by your laurels. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there is a certain amount of infiltration in communities like this. And I think some of it too is just people want to, for whatever reason, they want to try to, I'm going to reinvent the wheel to make a name for myself so I can compete against Coca-Cola and be, one of the big dogs and get lots of views and lots of subs, instead of just doing as much proper research as they can, being themselves and let their channel grow naturally through networking and doing stuff like you and I done tonight, and just interacting with the people that comment on your videos, and sitting down and doing a little bit of the tough stuff before you do the fun stuff. That just makes the fun stuff more fun.
I'm not asking you to believe everything I say. You do that. That's on you have your own thoughts, your own opinions. I'm not here to change your mind. It's just a matter of I listen to your ideas and you listen to my ideas. It's a a back and forth, and we share the ideas, and then we share this with the public, and the public, they hear and they get ideas, and maybe it reciprocates around. But when you close yourself off and you don't allow people to have their voice and to talk back and forth, and you say, no, you're not going to talk. We're not going to hear your opinion. Then nothing gets done.
Yeah. The best way to do it, I always think, is just, even if somebody's a babbling idiot, you let them say what they got to say, because they're just hanging themselves with their own rope anyways, and you don't even have to do nothing. Everybody eventually is going to, if you let them talk long enough, everybody eventually is going to see that they're an idiot or a goof or a charlatan or a snake oil salesman or whatever. And they hang themselves, right? Or they have such a huge spotlight shining on them that because you just let them run and let them go, and just every once in a while point out, what do you think of what he's saying over here? A guy thinks this fool's a little bit crazy, but you let them go, and eventually they expose themselves, I think, anyway.
I mean, I'm not real popular with a lot of folks right now, but that's okay with me, because I know that I'm trying to push this research forward, and we've got a lot of junk in our way that we need to get worked through. And by not talking, you're never going to get anywhere without, like, when people stop being nice, and say like it is, that's when you start moving forward, because people holding their tongue ain't going to get you nowhere.
Right. And I try to expose myself to different opinions of what we discuss.
Yeah.
These blanket terms like Tartaria and Mudflood. I try to watch, like I watch Awar stuff because I want to hear what he has to say.
So do
But
I.
I watch you. I watch John Levi. I watch Jared Boosters.
I'll watch as much as I can. Absolutely.
I watch Wood Nichols too, and I don't agree with everything they say.
I do
don't
too.
agree with everything that John Levi says. I don't agree with everything you say. But the nice thing about it is we can still have a pleasant time with one another and share the ideas that we do agree on. And we're not going to squabble over the minor details, because overall bigger pictures, we're on the same page. And how did we find that out? By talking.
Exactly. That's it right there. Well, I sure appreciate your time, and
I appreciate yours as well. Thank you.
You feel free to, if I usually will go in there and edit these things up a little bit, if take out anything that needs to be taken out, if you want to, it's kind of long, so it'd probably just be a separate video, but if you want to post it on your channel, or if you want me to edit it together and then send it to you so you can just load it up on your channel, or if you want to do it a different way, however you want to do it, it's up to you. There's no particularness to it. And share it with the people, because the people love these conversations. They love hearing us, throw things against the wall and see what sticks, because you don't know. Who knows?
I'll probably just upload, if I may, the whole thing as it is, and just tack on my little intro and outro on it, and just do a title card at the beginning saying, this is my nice chat with Stuff Beagle on such and such a date, and Bob's your uncle.
Go for it.
All right, that's great. I appreciate it.
You do it. You do what you will. It's I appreciate your time. I want to do more of these things with people. It's hard to get people together. But
crazy schedules and time zones and all that. But you're more than welcome out in my neck of the woods, out in the sticks anytime. You know that. out here in the scrub brush of Alberta. Anytime you want to come on my show, you're more than welcome. There's a couple of folks in the
What day do you do your show? Do you have a certain day that's set, or?
Well, my live stream is just in the middle of the month. That was usually even on a Wednesday, because I tend to upload on Sundays and Wednesdays.
Okay.
But this most recent, I did a poll with some of my audience asking them, and most people found that weekends were better for them. So now I'm going to switch to, when I do a live, for me, it'll be on a Sunday.
You can go to YouTube and go into the algorithm, not the algorithm, into the analytics, and you can look and you can see exactly when your viewers are most active. Yeah.
I have done that, and they're most active.
I don't do it. I just do it whenever the hell I feel like doing, which is Wednesday night. But
Well, I do know that they're most active for me on my channel after 6 p.m. my time. And that's pretty much every day of the week, but they're much more heavily active for longer periods over the weekends. So, and I know generally there's more traffic on the weekends. Most people perhaps don't work on weekends. My schedule's all over, so for me, it doesn't matter.
Love to do mine on the weekends, but I've got, I have to deal with some work things on weekends that I have zero control over, and it just totally fucks my whole weekend up every weekend, and I can't plan shit. It's like I told you that we'll do this if I can make it happen, I will. And this morning I woke up, didn't think I was working, and then by 10:30 I was working. So
there you go. Well, that's why I appreciate your time and the invite, and that's why I appreciate all your help with working out the bugs when we were first trying to kick this thing off too.
Oh, no problem. I get it, man. I get it. I've dealt with this shit so much that man, it's frustrating.
It can get a guy's tail ruffled. We'll say that.
Well, if you need advice on anything with anything, YouTube or whatever, if you have any questions, just hit me up. I'm real. I do a lot of MeWe is real easy for me.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to kind of get my attention because I'm kind of in and out of there all the time, and it's an easy way to transfer information.
Yeah. That's why I joined up
whatever.
on there too, and I created my own profile over there too. Because
Absolutely, yes.
For a guy like me, who's kind of not the most technologically savvy feller walking, it's real easy for me. I can just be like, wow, look how easy this is.
It's free. I just followed Campbell. Campbell did it, and I thought, well, why don't I do that? So follow. I'm with stupid. Why not?
By the way, real quick, have you been talking to Billy Philly down? He's down your neck of the woods too, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. I like their channel. I like their stuff.
Yeah, they're very green. They're very new to everything, but I see potential in what they're doing, and I give them all the encouragement I can because.
Me too. I love it. I think it's great that it's a husband and wife team.
That's what I said. Yeah.
And I think it's great how they play off each other, and I mean we're all still learning, and I know that I screw shit up on my videos.
I love how he'll be filming and she'll go check a door. He's like, honey, what are you doing? She's like, I'm checking the damn door.
Yeah.
What do you do? Don't do that. And she'll just walk right in. He's like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I love that.
I mean, if she wasn't there, we wouldn't get the video that he's getting because she's got that curiosity that he's more logical. I'm going to get arrested if I do this. She's more like, fuck it.
Yeah. So I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah.
Great.
I talk to them a lot. I talk to Joe quite a bit. He's a great guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He texted me this morning, matter of fact. But of course he seems to text me at 5:30 in the morning a lot. I'm like,
I think he goes to work real early.
Yeah, he does because he's a plumber.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I usually don't even get to text him back until later, but because he texts so early, it's just like, oh, I'm not talking right now. But
I've invited him onto my show too, but we just haven't been able to work it out. But
well, just do what I'm doing here. Do a recording. Not everybody can be at a certain place at a certain time. You can just do a recording, and then you can
later. Yeah,
put it up later.
Yeah,
it's a different dynamic than a live show. When you're live, it's kind of fly by the seat of your pants. But
yeah, the thing I like about live is the real-time interaction with everybody in the chat too. I love that.
Yeah. I like that, and that's something I've been enjoying. It's also hard to get people to ask questions. I think a lot of people are afraid to ask questions, but if you can get them riled up to where they're going to ask some questions, it gets real good.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it does. Well, I had a great time in your last one. So, and I've been around a couple of times in yours that, if I'm home and I'm not working, and they're fun.
I'm learning. I've been trying different things to get people to jerk people's chain to get them to talk and ask questions. And so me and Oz are trying different things, and we're starting to learn a few tricks that I think it'll make it better.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not striving to be perfect. I'm just trying to do the best I can with what I got, with what I know, and go from there.
That's all any of us can do, sir. That's all any of us can do. All right, I'll let you go so you can get some food in you and get some food in your pups. And thanks again. I really, really appreciate it, Biggs.
No problem. No problem.
Thank you. And thanks for everything you do for your channel and your research too, and for all your helpful pointers. It does not go unnoticed. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate you too. Just keep up the good work, the boots on the ground, that stuff. And I stress this to Billy Philly, is that you can get images that we cannot get from the internet, because there's only so much I can zoom in on Google Earth. The pictures are taken from ground level. And when you're getting up there on the ground, you can get that video and those images that cannot be gotten any other way. And so it's imperative that we get boots on the ground video. So I highly encourage boots on the ground.
Oh, thank you. And I have fun doing them too. So that's important, I think.
Well, Frankie from New West 3 Set, I sure appreciate your time, and we will see you soon. And I'll talk to you on the flip side.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Thanks again.
I'll see you soon.
All right. Have a good one.
Adios. Have a good one. Hey.
Say woof again! Say woof again!
I've got one that can see.
This is my kung fu, and it is strong.
See you later.